Hikaru already has a 6-minute lead on the clock.
Yeah, okay, so he played c6, right. Well, I guess either knight f3 or bishop g3. What's interesting is that there was this idea, Benjamin, of playing a5, rook a6 at some point, because there's no bishop that's on f1 that traditionally holds the a6 square. So black actually had that kind of early rook lift, which we don't see very much in regular chess.
Yeah.
But okay, I mean, c6 is sort of it's a very natural move, opening up an attack on the e5 pawn. And of course, white has to be careful about playing moves like d4 because just so many pawns in the dark squares, and he's missing a light squared bishop. But I mean, I wouldn't say that like even d4 here, it doesn't seem impossible. It's just that you're always going to run into f6.
Yeah, and I think you make a good point. So yeah, this pawn isn't under attack. So I expect knight f3 from Hikaru. Of course, bishop g3 can also be played. But let's see which one he is going to choose.
Yeah, what do you think about the idea of bishop g3 just kind of recognizing that like the bishop doesn't have that much of a potential, so that on f6 you can take an f6 and trade on b8, and okay, the position looks kind of even there, but it's kind of the question, right? Is like, do you want to keep that bishop on e1 on the board?
Right, and yeah, it seems that we finally completely managed to resolve everything, and we are live, I believe. Yeah, the time in St. Louis is 2:27 p.m. So bishop g3 played by Hikaru to defend this pawn. Let's see what Shaq is gonna do. Again, this bishop on e8 is kind of ugly, right? That's always one thing that's annoying in chess 960. If your bishop is placed in the middle of the board, right? Because let's say with Hikaru, with the bishop on b1, you just have to play c3 and it feels like it's working. But here it's really kind of blocked in by its own pawn. So I like the fact that Hikaru's bishop at least is developed, but this bishop remains a big problem. But black could also try to go after this pawn on e5, and he does that with the move d6.
Well, at least in this case, Benjamin, we might have a situation where we have those two center D and E pawns against like the F pawn and the doubled, G pawns. So that might be, in terms of pawn structure, more favorable actually for white. So yeah, I think white can just go ahead and take on d6, make a few trades, and then figure out how to get castled and how to get the pawns to d4 and e4. Maybe we can try playing a few moves like that, and let's see if I can get my strategy in.
Right,
So
so you want to
pawn
take on
takes
d6?
d6. Yeah, let's just
Let's see.
trade. I mean, I guess I don't have to trade the
Right.
bishops, but yeah, I don't have to trade them. Like
Maybe knight f3, perhaps?
knight f3 or like e4. E4, is there some sort of knight? I mean, what's wrong with e4? I'm just curious. Like, is it that, like, what are you going to do on that?
Yeah, e4 makes a lot of sense. And again, I think the main problem for black is really the king and the rook here. Because white... but let me check actually if this is set up correctly. So let's say black plays rook d7. And we go here, can black castle? Oh, he can, yeah. So
Oh,
black could
thankfully.
potentially solve
Yeah.
that that way. White can, by the way, also castle. Um, I don't know. For black, the rooks look a bit more and more clumsy over here. But we have more moves. Hikaru played knight f3.
Yeah, he went with your move, Benjamin. Okay. Um, so, well, white strategy here overall, yes, to castle in the near future.
Mm-hmm.
I do like rook e1 near in the near future, and then the castle's queenside plan makes a lot of sense to me. And then try to get those pawns to e4 and d4, and your knight back out to g3. That's the dream, right? Given like the
Right.
pawn structure that we have in front of us. Now for black, black also has these tricky questions to solve, like what's going on with a rook on a8 and how does he get in queenside castling. And I don't think even if black could castle kingside that he would want to, given the open H file there. So I think it's safe to assume that black is going to stay with his king on the queen side. And then, yeah, also like what is he doing with the bishop on e8, with a knight on g8?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we just saw kind of an answer. So knight f6 and bishop h4. Wow. So he just avoids the bishop trade that he was offering.
Right, so he pins the knight, so obviously black should not take the pawn here because white takes the rook. But, maybe the plan that we discussed earlier, bishop d7, you hit this pawn over here, and let's say white defends it with knight f2, maybe now just rook e8. And black is ready to get queenside castles, and to be honest, I kind of like black's position. I mean, he has the two bishops, the rooks are active now, so perhaps this is a plan Czech will opt for, and as we speak, bishop d7 has just been played.
Yeah, bishop h4 was a little, it's a little surprising because you left black with the bishop pair and you also spent like a tempo doing it. So yeah, I am a bit surprised by that. And now the g4 pawn is hanging, and what can you really do to guard it? I mean, do you have to go g5 and let the knight have the outpost on h5? But then, like, why'd you play bishop h4 then if you're going to put a pawn in the way? I guess knight f2 is another move, or queen g2 that you could look at. Okay, let's try knight f2. Let's see what's wrong with that.
Yeah, knight f2 looks very natural, but again, I think black is just going here, and actually, I forgot, like, after black plays rook e8, he is, in fact, threatening to take the pawn. And now we also cannot play queen g2, so this already, to me, looks quite problematic, because you never really want to go g5, because you're blocking your own bishop, and I think if you move the knight anywhere, black should be doing completely fine. So, I don't know, to be honest, it feels like Czech already has an advantage, so maybe Hikaru's strategy on the king side is backfiring.
Wow. I gotta say, the most normal position ever is in the game between Caruana and Fallujah. I mean, those guys just managed to get into something that looks like it's regular chess. Wow.
Yeah. So Hikaru, Fabiano did start off with the move e4, c6 by Fallujah. Now notice that with this move, black is also attacking this pawn over here. So now the g3 was played, and they kind of went into a Caro-Kann. And yeah, it turned into normal chess very quickly, because here we see what happened. Like, white only needs to get this queen out of the way, and then, believe it or not, you can go kingside castles, and black does the same thing.
Yeah, of course, black actually has a very reasonable exchange variation of the Caro, right? Because white is missing the light squared bishop on d3. So yeah, that's kind of a big omission there by white not having that bishop.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that Fabiano just gave it up on g6. It didn't really feel like there was any particular need. Well, I guess he didn't want to play queen e2.
Knight f4, yeah.
Because of knight f4, yeah. And if you take, this check is really awkward. But yeah, more moves have been played. I guess this one is just headed for a draw. I mean, both sides have a queen, two rooks. Already some pawns are coming off. But if someone is better, maybe black, as he's slightly more active.
Yeah, Fallujah's got the rooks already doubled up on the open file. But okay, I mean, white has no real weaknesses, so I do think this is going to fizzle out with a bunch of exchanges. We have other interesting, like an interesting position there with Dominguez versus So. So is the current Chess 960 world champion after defeating Carlsen for that title in 2019. And what do we got here? So in this game, neither side is castled. Black actually will never castle because he has his king on c7. White still can castle if he moves his bishop. And he can do the queen side castling like this.
Of course, black would take, and yeah, here white could go queenside castles. Yeah, I mean, to me, it looks approximately even. Of course, in the endgame, the king on c7 is not a big deal at all. And yeah, it very much looks like a Caro-Kann, I would say. White, maybe if he's ambitious, can keep the queens on the board. But it's going to take a while before white... I think if white gets a couple moves, right? Like if white can, let's say, get, bishop d3 in, and then long castles, maybe then king b1 followed by rook f2. White should have the advantage, but of course, black is going to do something in the meantime. So the big question is what? But yeah, I think this one should be approximately balanced.
Yeah, structurally, it's nicer for white because white's got that space advantage with the e5 pawn. But, since you have this big harmony problem still on the board and black seems actually better developed, I think, yeah, that's why it's not so easy for white to claim an advantage here. Meanwhile, we got some developments in Hikaru's game, so let's go back.
So after bishop d7, he did play the move g5, knight h5.
Yeah,
e4,
can't be
queen
too happy
e7.
about that.
Oh, this is a move we did not expect at all. Shaq went kingside castles.
Nice. Well, you know, I was saying we're not likely to see that, but okay, actually, if the knight is on h5 and the H file is completely closed, I think it's actually perfectly safe. Let's just take a look at that move again. Can we just go back before he castled how he did that?
Yeah, so in online chess, what you just do is you put your king on your rook and you get castled. But in over the board play, I guess you have to go king g8 and rook to f8.
Yes. You just put the king on g8, and I guess the castles is completed automatically. So it's interesting. So he decided the king side was the safest part of the board for him. Well, we are getting to a more normal position here. White can actually also castle by putting the rook on d1, making it jump over the king. The issue for white that I see, I mean, the bishop on h4 is just horrible. The knight cannot really come out from h1 somewhere active. It has to go to f2, and even from there, it's not clear where to go. So like white's dream is probably something like castles queenside, you know, d4 and e5. Although again, then all of his pawns will be on dark squares, and he has very little light square control. So I think this is a challenging position for Hikaru.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, he played knight f2 and a5 by Shaq. So Shaq just wants to create wings on the queen side. Sorry. So how do you think Hikaru has to deal with this one? I mean, he could now play e5 and maybe create some counterplay in the center and on the king side.
Yeah, I don't really see him playing a4, to be honest, but I mean, I suppose black could just keep going a4, a3, right? And it's like very ugly to have to put your pawn on a3. So maybe a4, but it's just a very sad move to have to play, don't you think?
Yeah, no, it definitely doesn't look right. And we see Hikaru going queenside castle. So I guess Shaq is just going to continue with his plan, but it doesn't look too scary to me, right? Like, let's say I go d4. I mean, in case of a3, I just play b3 and keep everything close. So to me, the move a5, a4 seems like a bit of a waste of time.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think like the idea of a5 is very clear. I think it's going to be hard for him to kind of change his mind and start looking for something else here after he's pushed that pawn. Like there is this idea with c5. Okay, so he goes b5. Now what's the point of that? I guess d4 is like it's always been the dream in this pawn structure,
right?
Pawns here.
So, maybe what he wants to do is go b4, but I guess we just keep it close with c4. And now the problem with b3 is that you cannot play e3 comfortably because Shaq is gonna attack and he's gonna sack here. So that could potentially be a problem, but maybe we can throw an e5 first because I don't think we have to be too worried about this. Because we take, and if he steps the bishop back now, c4 should comfortably keep the position closed.
Yeah, of course, after bishop f5, that's still a very powerful bishop, and your king is kind of trapped, and which makes it hard for you to ever play d5. So I still think after bishop f5, it would be a not so easy here, but you can go knight e4, right? Yeah, knight e4. I don't know. It would be lovely to sack one day on f6, but I don't think it's coming anytime soon. So we just have to be very careful here.
Yeah, the Shaq sack attack, as some people are pointing out in the chat. Yeah, maybe knight f6 at some point in time, but it's really hard to imagine it ever working. And by the way, in the meantime, I just saw that Eric Hansen and Jose Martinez won their matches in the CGC. So that's two, I mean, especially from Eric, that's a big upset. I think, I mean, in case of Jossam's match, I think it was definitely a toss-up.
Tell us who they were playing, Benjamin.
Also, Eric played Laquan Liam, so 2700 plus Grandmaster. He was a World Blitz champion. And Jose played Kirill Alexenko, who's also over 2700, but Jose has been performing much better in all these online rapid events.
Wow. Yeah, that's a really good result for them. So this is like, this is like knockout matches?
Right. It's basically like a online World Cup, I would say.
Okay, we got a little bit of progress here. Hikaru played 94 instead of d4.
Right.
Yes.
So let's.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so a shag cannot take, because I guess we take and then go knight f6 and we win the queen. Or, I mean, maybe there was even something better because you put yourself in this pin. So let's see what he's going to do. I mean, I guess b4 will still be answered with c4, right? Or, I mean, I guess we don't even have to be too worried because we can just recapture with the d-pawn.
Yeah, I do like bishop f2 here because that's like been the biggest dream, is to improve that horrible bishop. And now if you can put it on c5, well, actually, white's position has become a lot better, right?
Right, yeah, I really like that plan.
Maybe this is why Hikaru has delayed pushing the d-pawn, because he's got this idea of bishop f2 next. Well, that's a big detail in the position.
Right, yeah. So let's see what Shaq is gonna do. I mean, it feels like still the light squares are all his, you know? I mean, move like bishop f5 will always be annoying, queen e6, hitting this. So and by the way, as we speak, rook fd8 has just been played. So taking the sting out of a potential bishop to c5. Now the question is, how does Hikaru proceed? I mean, do we still go bishop here?
Yeah, I think still. I mean, queen e6, king b1. Of course, it's a little annoying because there's queen d5, bishop f5, yeah?
Yeah, or yeah, bishop f5 or bishop e6, because the problem is we never want to push any of these pawns, because if we go b3, there's a4, but you do have to defend somehow. So still tough position for Hikaru. He's up a little bit of time on the clock, and do you know the time? Oh, it's there in the chat. It's 20 plus 5. Okay, so they still have plenty of time.
Yeah, and do you know that there's already one game that's finished, Benjamin? It says Svidler has lost to Nepo with the white pieces already. And it seems like kind of a dramatic position on the board in their game. What just happened? He just, blundered a fork somewhere? Let's see.
So let's have a look. So, okay, so here's Svidler played g4. And I guess he overlooked this move, knight takes g3. Very tricky by Nepo, because if you take the knight on h3, rook h1 traps the queen. But black has here. And now after rook g1, there's knight e3. And I don't know, it feels slightly premature to just resign here. But on the other hand, knowing Svidler, he might have just been so annoyed with himself that he didn't want to proceed any further.
Wow, that's a big tactic to miss by Svidler, right? Let's just show that again, because that was totally unnecessary. So
I think here he should have a better position. So g4 really started all his own problems, I would say.
Right. So the question to me is, the f4 pawn is hanging. Why isn't that more of a problem? Like on knight e4, what happens on knight takes f4?
That is a very good question.
Knight
I guess
bishop takes. Now let's knight c5. Just that simple, yeah.
Right, because e6 is very difficult to protect, and also now with the queen we can start creating some threats. But it doesn't seem as easy over the board, right? I guess that's why Svidler thought like, okay, my pawn on f4 is under attack, and let me solve it in a clever way with g4. But as we saw, it completely backfired. And just to let you guys know, we're live. We're live, right?
Yeah, we're not coming to you from yesterday.
Yeah, but we're also not on a delay. So we can confirm that if anyone wants to send a message, we can we are live, but the games are delayed. Say hi then. Okay, I say hi. What time is it? It's 2:44. Anyway, so no cam. We are live. Nice. Yeah. Gran Maestro Julio 76 is playing, but let's have a look at his game, Irina. So he played king b1. He moves the king all the way in the corner. What is the point behind that?
Well, getting out of different bishop f5 pins, I guess. Or king b1, b4, king a1. Right. Well, it does show that he's not like super optimistic about his position. I think he's definitely gone into defensive mode.
Mm-hmm.
In general, I guess I have to say that Shaq will be feeling pretty comfortable here, right? He likes to attack. This is his kind of position. The time is very even.
Mm-hmm.
So now what kind of attractive moves are there? Yeah, definitely. I was going to say bishop e6 and a4 seems like a reasonable plan, but okay, he goes there. Is he threatening the e5 pawn? Probably not yet, right?
Yeah, I don't think he's too interested in taking this pawn yet. I would think that for the moment he's just gonna increase the pressure on the queen side with moves like a4, maybe a3, b3 potentially as well. And I don't know, it just looks uncomfortable for Hikaru. I don't really see a good move. I mean, this knight is pinned. Your attack on the king side is not taking off at all. So I don't really see how you're gonna create counterplay, to be honest.
Yeah, so queen g2 attacking the bishop makes sense. And let's say you play queen e6 or queen d7. They're very similar.
Or maybe this one allows here. So maybe queen d7. And now also knight f4 could potentially be annoying.
Right. So what do we do? If we at some point you can take an f3 and just take on e5, right?
Right. And yet I think Shaq is really waiting for white to play d4, and
Yeah.
then he will take, so that then white cannot recapture with a d pawn. And if we have a slight look, if we have a close look, we see that Hikaru is getting a minute behind on the clock. He's getting down to 5 minutes, while Shaq still has 6.5 minutes approximately on his clock. So let's see how he will continue. I mean, it looks tough, but if Hikaru can keep the position complicated until time scramble, then he still has chances.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. But so far, it's been an uphill climb for Hikaru in this position. And he's still thinking after bishop g4 what to do. I mean, like, it looks like what, yeah, queen g2, queen d7.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're gonna
Yeah.
see. And then on rook g1, bishop f3, queen f3, bishop e5. Can black just get away with taking that pawn?
I think he can. I mean, I guess after takes, there's probably d4 from white, and the question is where do you go now with the bishop? I guess you probably go back, and I mean, white has some annoying jumps, but it doesn't really seem to accomplish a whole lot. Knight
Yeah,
f6 is
because the
something you
queen can always go to
always have.
d5.
Right, and also in this case of knight f6, like you can always take and go queen d5. So I don't really see how we could ever make anything real happen here. But let's see what Shaq is going to do. And yeah, as we speak, we see the players on Hikaru on the cam here. Hikaru's wearing a nice shirt.
Oh yeah, that's right. I see him. Yeah, it's not the pineapple shirt, but it's kind of more of a chess themed shirt, black and white.
Right. There we have it. Queen e6 defending the bishop. Okay, so this does allow knight at d4. And I think you probably just have to take this knight over here. Because, I mean, in case of queen d7, there's like knight c5. You don't want to allow that. And queen c8 looks passive. I mean, maybe knight c6. So I think Shaq is going to take. And then take, and then take. And this doesn't look too bad for white, right? I mean, this might be the best position we've had in a while.
Yeah, well, it looks really terrible at first glance, like, right? Because you got those double d pawns. And like, let's say they play queen d5. It's interesting to see, like, to figure out why we're not just losing here. Like, I mean, is it that we're just going to play bishop f2 and defend the d pawn, and black can't really make progress because his knight can't come into the game from h5. But that's not what Hikaru played. Yeah, he played knight f2.
Right,
Okay.
so now Shaq has to decide, is he going to give up the bishop for the knight, or is he going to go here? But
Yeah.
this allows knight at d4. And the question is, can you make something happen over here? It looks very scary because black can always collect this pawn over here and then go a4, a3. And that will literally be a checkmate. So it looks tricky for, I mean, maybe you do this in other order, right? Like, let's say you go here.
Let me just tell you one unfortunate fact about Shaq is that he really likes exchange sacrifices. Like, he will do that sack on d4 without even any thinking, I think, Benjamin, because he's done it in like less clear situations as well. I think it's like a favorite thing of his.
Right. So you think Shaq is gonna sack the exchange sack for a big attack?
I really like that rhyme. Good job.
Yeah. But yeah, it looks dangerous. But okay, I mean, bishop takes f3 should also be better for
Wow,
black.
it's on the board. Okay,
Oh, and there we have it.
look at that. Look, it was like seconds, right? Wasn't it? It was
Right,
like
yeah. No, you called it, yeah.
he
So
doesn't
all
need
of
a big
this,
invitation to that party.
exactly. So this exchange sack is on the board. So now let's see how it's going to continue. I mean, he has knight f4, which looks good. Also a4, a3, because again, if b3 comes, then bishop b6 threatens mate on d4. But I think if you go bishop b6 right away, white might still have rook c1, and he might just be in time to create counterplay over here.
Yeah. So a4, rook c1, a3 is just very fast, and he puts it on the board. Oh man,
Oh, and
this
there's
is
some
actually going to be
nasty
kind of like a
lines.
crush, isn't it?
Right, look at this. Like if you go rook c1, a3, b3, bishop b6. Let's say you go rook c4 here to defend.
Oh,
There's queen takes
beautiful.
c4, and bam, with the checkmate.
Nice.
So,
Wow. I mean, but you know,
of,
it's not hard to believe that black is doing well here. I mean, just like look at that terrible bishop on h4. Like, you know, it's one of the worst things in chess is to be left with bad pieces. So the bishop on h4 is totally irrelevant. You know, the knight on f2 isn't great. You know, the rooks are average, but then there's damage to your pawn structure and play against your king. And like the bishop on f5 is like a total beast.
right. And yeah, it seems like some people in the chat are worried that Shaq is going to beat Hikaru here. But let's see how Hikaru is going to come back.
I think they're saying that he's going to beat Hikaru.
Yeah, he's going to beat it. Yeah. Right. I mean, here you still have d3 takes, and you don't
Queen
have
b3,
this.
you don't have that. Yeah, well, that's too bad because it would have been another beautiful checkmate.
Right. But you do have moves like knight f4, which looks pretty nasty when you're hitting this and this, and maybe there's also knight at d5 to c3.
Yeah.
So let's see how.
I definitely don't like to be pessimistic about Hikaru's positions, but like this is pretty much one of the most pessimistic positions I've seen him have.
Right, yeah, this looks like a beatdown, but let's see what he still can do. I mean, what about, let's say, knight e4? Because then in case of a3, you go b3, bishop b6, knight c5 to block. Again, I doubt that this is going to work, and maybe black also has queen d5. Oh, queen e5 might be a problem, because now your knight is pinned, and in case bishop f2 now here.
Oh, and there's no knight c5 because you're pinned, yeah.
Oh, and by the way, thanks to Chess for the raid with 1,417 viewers. Appreciate it. Hope you guys had fun hosting the CGC. And yeah, I saw that you guys definitely had some very exciting matchups.
Yeah, thank you for the raid, guys. And okay, Hikaru getting low on time, under 2 minutes. So basically, he's got to stop this a3 move, and that's really the challenge.
Yeah. What you could also consider, but I really doubt that it's going to work out, is let's say you go d3, a3, and knight e4, with the idea that if black takes, you take with the queen. You still defend this. And as we speak, knight e4 has just been played. So how is he going to respond to the move a3 from Shaq?
Well, he's threatened with mate, so I think d3 makes sense, doesn't it? Like, I mean, it can't be b3.
Right.
Well, b3 we already looked at. We already know that it's losing to queen d5, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, black could potentially start out with queen e5 right away. Because if white goes d3 here after bishop b6, I don't see a defense to this. That's another very nasty idea. So let's see which one Shaq. Shaq on the attack. Which one is he going to choose? And actually, there's a funny line. Like, imagine white wants to escape into a bad endgame here, right? But let's say knight f6. Black can just take with the knight and solve that problem right away. And this is just completely lost.
Yeah, well, it definitely gets into the bad endgame, but it's really bad. Yeah.
I don't see a move here. And Hikaru down to 1 minute and 20 seconds on the clock. What is he going to come up with?
So what happens if Hikaru loses? How many more games are there? They're playing 3 games per day, guys. So it's a 10-player round robin played over 3 days. And yeah, we'll have two more games of game 20 plus 5-second increment.
Right, bishop f2. Okay, but now bishop e6, I think, wins the game on the spot. Because you really cannot, I mean, you cannot play b3. You're just getting absolutely crushed here. King b1, you're also getting absolutely crushed. I don't believe in it. So I think the only move you have is knight f6, but this endgame is completely lost.
Okay, should we take a quick look? Aronian just beat Kasparov.
Yeah, very nice tactic there by Levant to finish off the game. He was already better here.
Wow, okay, he was better. He wanted to win the a5 pawn, but it wasn't really over. Wait. And then Gary played bishop d8, missing rook f7. Oh no, that's a basic tactic. That's going to make him really unhappy.
Right, yeah, because if you
I imagine we would have seen some emotion on his face at that blunder, like lots of head shaking and grimacing. That wasn't good. How much time did he have? I mean, he had a minute and a half. Yeah, he was under some pressure, but that was a pretty big blunder, losing those 2 pieces for the rook.
Right, and if you take here, white takes here, and this should be quite an elementary win. And Shaq, by the way, has played king f8. So do you think he sees bishop e6, but he wants more? I'm kind of surprised that he didn't just go into that.
Wow.
I'm surprised. To me, like, bishop e6 seemed game over. But this should also be winning.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he's setting up bishop e6, right? And we're still pins. Like, we can't move any of our pieces.
Yeah, these pawns here are pretty nasty because they cover a lot of squares. And Hikaru getting down to 20 seconds. I mean, bishop e6 is coming in. I don't see what you can do about it. Yeah,
this is painful. Painful.
Yeah. I think, it's really Hikaru's whole opening that's to blame on this whole g4 push. To me, it didn't make a lot of sense. And all the others, they just played e4 and got normal positions. So,
you know what I think? Hikaru should just check in with us before his game start. He's got 15 minutes, right? So can't he just see what our opinion is on the first move?
Right. And queen h1 was played with 7 seconds and now b3, but you're not gonna survive this. I can tell you that. At c5, I mean, I think b2 is just a g. b2, and there we have it. And yeah, all right. And Shaq wins the game. Yeah, so tough start for Hikaru. I think he got too creative in the opening, to be honest. I mean, at the end of the day, it very often turns into normal chess. So I think you just have to play normal developing moves, and g4 was not it. But let's move to the other games. This one should be a draw between Fabiano and Alireza, because I think you just wait, and as soon as black takes, you actually white wins here.
Yeah, then you can try to win, actually. Yeah,
right. So I guess they're just going to shuffle back and forth, and there's nothing either player can do. I mean, if you could somehow get the rook to
d8, yeah,
but black, yeah, you're not in time. Or just rook d8, yeah. So this game is probably going to be a draw, and Dominguez and Wesley So just drew their game as well. Rook h7 played, but again, I believe just king g4. Please box a very, very poor. No. Yeah, tough start.
Yeah, that was complicated. I really think where he started to go like majorly wrong was that bishop h4 move where he declined the trade of the dark square bishops. It seems like it would have been a more prudent idea to get black's bishop pair off the board. Maybe we can show that moment, Benjamin. Like right here, it was really quite surprising that like he has the bishops lined up for this trade. I guess he had to figure out what to do with a g pawn. That was the thing, right?
Yeah, no, I think bishop h4 was a bad move. Like he wanted to keep the bishops on the board, and perhaps he felt like this pin was very difficult for black to ever get out of. But Shaq solved his problems very conveniently already with this move bishop d7, and this g4 pawn is so weak. So I think here Hikaru had to do something along the lines of, let's say, trading and then knight f2. And black is pretty comfortable, but white is very much in the game. But after bishop h4, eventually the two bishops prove to be way too strong.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, well, Shaq just played a good game, actually. I can't say that he got very lucky. He just played well. Maybe we should take a look a little bit at Aronian Kasparov. I'm still, I'm always interested in Kasparov's games. People have pointed out that Gary is retired, so why is he playing? But he does occasionally come out to play in St. Louis in these Blitz or Rapid or 960 events. And in chess 960, you don't have to have any opening theory prepared, so it's just easier for him as a not professional player anymore to take part. But okay, of course, it's still a challenge, when you're not playing chess full time and you're playing against these top young guys. So what was the first move? It was also like a Caro-Kann, Benjamin. Sorry, I
right.
know
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it started off with e4, c6, and yeah, this one turned into a Caro-Kann or French-ish type of position. I really like how Levon played this. It feels like he always had a lot of pressure on Kasparov's king side. I mean, the problem is white always has pressure towards his pawn on g7. You can never play g6 because then you blunder the fork. And you can never move this knight out of the way because then white will very often take the pawn on g7. So Levon slowly but surely increased the pressure. Now it feels though Kasparov should have been fine one way or another. But the problem is also the clock. Like Levon still has 30 minutes and Kasparov already down to 4.5. And with only a 5-second increment kicking in later, I think that definitely cost Kasparov later on.
Yeah,
Here, people really. Sorry, go ahead.
It doesn't seem so bad, right? But still, yeah, some annoyance with this b5 idea coming.
Yeah, I really like how Levon played this because I mean, the move b5 creates real problems for black on the queen side, and yeah, together with the time situation, Kasparov wasn't quite able to solve it. I mean, again here, perhaps rook g5 was a mistake because you just go back, and now white is threatening to take because there's no potential rook to a8. Rook f1, another great move by Levon because in case black takes, I guess bishop e3 is his idea where white wins the exchange because black cannot keep defending this knight over here. And yeah, the combined pressure on the board and the clock became too much. All right, so yeah, so let's have a very quick look at the standings. After round number 1, it's Shaq, Mamedyarov, Jan Nepomniachtchi, and Levon who are in the lead with 1 point out of 1 games. Then there's Fabiano, Alireza, Dominguez, and Wesley So, who each have half a point. And then we have Hikaru, Peter Svidler, and Gary on 0 points. But of course, we hope that Hikaru is going to make a comeback. Do you have any idea when the next round is?
I do have an idea, Benjamin. The rounds start, I believe, every hour 15. So basically, in 12 minutes, we're going to be back for the second round of the day. And Hikaru is going to be playing. Wait for it. He's going to be playing. Oh, wow. Nice matchup. I have to say, it's kind of my favorite matchup of the tournament. Gary Kasparov versus Hikaru Nakamura. So yeah, that's going to be, I think, quite a show. And so stick around for that, guys. We'll be back in just around 10 minutes.
And welcome back, everyone, to the Chess 960 tournament in St. Louis. And round number 2 is going to start very, very soon. Hikaru is going to play with the black pieces against none other than the legend, Garry Kasparov. And this is the position that they are going to be playing with. It looks very close to normal chess arena, but the one question I was thinking about is how are they going to get the queens into the game? What do you think? Are they going to play like an early g4, or will they just keep those queens there in the corner?
Yeah, so normal position in the sense that the king is on e8 on his usual square. The queen is not next to him, right? It's in this very strange position in the corner. I suppose, yeah, you could certainly think about like a move like g5, or yeah, probably g5, g6. Or you could just play d5, open up the bishop, maybe c5, knight c6. Maybe we gotta get into a normal position like that, you know, d5, c5, knight c6, and then or maybe even d5, c6, you know, put a battery against the queen. I mean, I think d5 is a reasonable move. It's never like a very bad idea to just play in the center, actually. One thing I can say, Benjamin, is that we got some teams doing the analysis. So we got Garry continuing to work with Peter. Makes sense, as these are two players, they go back a long way. And I mean, Garry was already world champion for many years when like Peter started making his ascent in the chess world. They played each other a lot. And now they're both, you know, sort of semi-retired, I would say. I mean, Peter doesn't play, well, I mean, Gary's like officially retired, but even Peter, he doesn't play that much anymore, does a lot more commentary. So it makes sense, I think, for them to be working together. And then we got the team of Wesley So, Jan Nepomniachtchi, and Mamedyarov. Of course, they're not playing each other. And so the three of them are taking a look at some things.
Right. But yeah, I think Garry, we saw him very quickly. I think he was suggesting the move c4. That's definitely an option as well. I think, you know, the question is whether white is going to play, let's say, e4 or d4. And actually, I was wondering, in case white plays e4, here I would seriously consider the move g5, right, to bring this queen into the game. And this queen here feels kind of locked in, because if you go h4, just go g4 to keep it closed, I would think. And so to me, it doesn't seem obvious how you bring this queen into the game. So maybe it makes much more sense to play d4. Again, here, black can, again, consider move g5, hitting the pawn. But I guess here, c3 is good. You have both the bishops open, and later on, you can open up that move with the move.
Yeah.
You can open up that queen with the move g4. So I guess d4 makes the most sense. Then we always got to wonder, what if black does the same, right? What if black plays d5? Maybe here, again, g3 and opening of the queen. So I think white could potentially get some initiative here. And you know what? I wouldn't be shocked if Hikaru would play f5, because he likes playing the Dutch, followed by g6. I mean, maybe that could be an idea as well.
Well,
maybe
like
actually in this.
So to me, the d pawn move makes a lot of sense. I think Garry should be trying that, right? Going for the Dutch. Yeah, you don't have your knight on f6. Your knight's a bit weird on f8, but
yeah, that's a good point. And here, white also, I really like this move g4, by the way, opening up the rook with a...
and if pawn takes, just rook takes, yeah?
Right, yeah, I guess you take with the rook. And I don't know, already I kind of like white's position. So I feel like it's tricky for black, because the queens are both in the corner. So here the extra tempo could really matter, you know? But I do think that probably it makes most sense for both players to open up with d4, followed by c3, to get both of the bishops into the game, and to keep the option open of getting the queen involved as well. So I expect
the interesting
d4.
thing. Yeah, so d4, let's say d5, right?
Right.
What about c3?
Okay, let's say I do the same, c6.
Right, and now the difference is that I have e4. Isn't that like a potential issue?
Well, I guess here black should be happy to take, and after takes, I mean, the bishop in the middle of the board isn't too scary, in my opinion. It's kind of annoying if let's say, the queen lands there and you cannot get rid of the queen. So white could also consider, let's say, g3 here, c6, and maybe now e4, because you cannot easily get rid of this queen in the middle of the board.
You can try g6 and bishop f5, I guess.
Right, but it still feels like your queen is not playing, right? The queen feels very misplaced after, let's say, this, followed by knight jumping to e3. So, you know, in the last position, I felt like the advantage, having the advantage of the white pieces wasn't that big. But here, I feel like, you know, white definitely has an advantage. So let's see how they're going to approach this position. I believe they're starting in 7 minutes, right?
Yeah, it's also interesting to see if we're going to see any difference between the people who analyze by themselves or with a team. Like, how helpful is it? And I see that, I think, oh, Fabi, he's analyzing with Levon.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you would think that it is always beneficial to analyze with other strong players because the position is so complicated that, you know, two players always see more than one, right?
Mm-hmm.
But maybe Hikaru just enjoys analyzing on his own more.
Yeah, I think out of all the players, like him and Ali Reza were like the lone wolves, and then we haven't seen Dominguez actually. And Dominguez, we haven't seen what he's doing at all. But everyone else has paired up, the other 7 players.
Right. And yeah, I'm trying to make sense of what they are analyzing. Ah, wait, I think I see it. So Levon and Fabiano are looking at d4, g6, c3, and e5. One's going to get the queen out very quickly. And they're looking at this position right now. This is the position they have on the board, g3, just suggested by Levon. Just trying to do this. Not. Maybe c6, you know. I feel like black should be doing okay here. I mean, bishop 4 doesn't strike me as too concerning. I mean, you're not worried about moving this rook because I think you want to cancel kingside anyway.
Yeah, it's amazing, like how, like for example, I'm looking at Fabi. He's extremely relaxed. Like he's just enjoying this process of exploring a new position.
Exactly.
It's quite nice, I think, for the players to play without the pressure of rating points on the line. It's a kind of a rare thing for them. So yeah, definitely you can feel that like he's just a lot less tense than normal.
And now they're analyzing a different line, which goes with white playing the move d5, f5, and g4. This one could be problematic for black. I mean, this is under pressure. Your queen stays kind of locked in. It feels like white could definitely develop a big initiative here. So I think, yeah, I think Levon and Fabiano are definitely up to something here.
So they're looking at d4 and g5. Is that what we're doing here, Benjamin? No, d4 and which move is
e5, d5.
Ah.
So now Fabiano suggested the move c6. Levon suggests f4, it seems. d5, e4. Takes, bishop takes. Again, I'm not too worried about this bishop landing in the middle of the board, although if you cannot get rid of it easily, it feels like your queen is always going to be kind of locked in. Levon says, okay, you follow with g3. So I like the analysis of these two players. And actually, you know, we're looking here with a computer as well. And actually, the move they suggest make a lot of sense, which shows how strong these guys are.
Okay, yeah, it's interesting how in these positions, like black has this f5, g5 idea. Yeah, for counterplay after giving up the center a bit.
Yeah, I think now they're analyzing this one. I think, to be honest, it is probably best for black to just play d5 and c6. Okay, e5 looks risky, but can white take advantage? They're looking at this right now. Game's, by the way, getting started in 3 minutes, so they can't keep analyzing too much longer.
So here, f4, yeah, pushing away that bishop. Trying to
Yeah,
go, I guess,
perhaps
F4 and
F4.
G3, or even F4 and G4. It's
Right.
funny how in these Fischer random positions, you can afford to have your king looking so awkward for like a lot longer than normal because of, let's say, the position of the queens in this case, right? There's just no pieces there to attack him.
Right. And now they're looking at C4, C5. I don't like the move C4. Again, I think here G5. I like this move a lot, getting the queen into the game. And you can already see that black is starting to take control over the squares in the middle of the board.
And
right?
so,
I
like,
think,
if white goes like knight C3 there,
oh, sorry. Let's say
so
C4,
C4, G5,
G5.
like knight C3. What are we doing with our
Maybe
five?
maybe C5. B5 could be an idea.
And maybe
Let's bring
B3.
it. Well, then I feel like black should really get some pressure here. And yeah, the players are getting up because the round is probably going to start very, very soon.
Well, that seems like a cool idea. Hold on. Can we keep going there, Benjamin? Bishop E5, Bishop B2. And what is this D5 move?
Right.
That just looks crazy. Wow.
This looks pretty wild, yeah, because I mean you can't stop B4. You're losing a piece here.
Well, that's just crazy that we can have on move
five.
F5 after 5 moves, a position where black is already winning. And I mean, it's like a kind of a Benko gambit type of idea. So unusual. I mean, yeah. That's just a nice illustration of how like this Fischer random is so different from regular chess. I mean, in a regular game, you're never going to have any strong player like losing after 5 moves. But here, it's not like we even made obvious mistakes for white. We just, tried to fianchetto the queen side and took a pawn, and suddenly we're losing. Yeah.
Right, and yeah, the players are getting in their seats. So let's see if the game is up already. All right, let's see. So we have.
So Gary looks really, his typical Gary pose, very intense.
Very intense, normal. Very determined. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Gary's like, he can't change that. That's just how he is. It's beautiful, beautiful to see that kind of approach, even at at his age, right, and having been out of chess for, oh man, like more than 15 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's see how this one is going to develop. Okay, he goes pawn at G4. Makes a lot of sense, getting the queen into the game. Now let's see what Hikaru is going to do. I mean, the point is always if black goes H5, you just go G5, keeping this queen locked in. So don't think that's what you should do. Eventually, you should play the move G5 yourself, but you can start out with, let's say, C6 to go D4 to limit this queen's mobility.
So let me tell you something interesting. Gary chose G4, but pretty much all the other games, I think the rest of them started with D4. So what we were thinking was the most, natural was what most of the players chose. But Gary went for something unusual. So let's see the points. Okay, G4 opens up the queen and the rook. Hikaru just played C6. And then C4. So Gary never kind of like put the pawn on D4, at least not yet.
Right. So I guess now might be a good moment for Hikaru to play G5, opening up his own queen. And yeah, I guess here white might want to try to prepare to move D4 or something, because actually, let's say play move like knight D3, this could already be a big mistake due to bishop E5, and I don't see how you can defend this pawn here comfortably. You'd have to play knight D1 back. So I wonder how the game is going to proceed here. I mean, you don't want to play D3, then you block in this bishop. So again, maybe E3 by D4 is the way to go. I mean, you don't want to play E5. That looks really ugly. So question becomes, how is Hikaru going to deal with this move D4?
So you're thinking that Gary could be playing E3 here. Yeah, it's just all okay. Stopping bishop E5. Good point. Right. Yeah. Okay,
Another move could be H4, and I guess you just go
H6.
H6.
That doesn't seem as big of a problem.
Right. Even though it feels like this inclusion should favor white, right?
Yeah.
Because white can always decide whenever he wants to trade.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would
so let's see.
agree.
Hikaru in deep thought after the move c4. It's kind of funny, you never see this in normal chess where you push the g and the c pawns up, but you do create some, sort of squares for your pieces potentially.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very actually. I mean, it's a very interesting strategy by Gary, like this E3 and D4. I mean, again, okay, it comes down to the fact that you got to take space in chess. So, okay, Black C6 move, it restricts Bishop E4 ideas and pressure on that diagonal by the queen, but it's also like a more passive move in terms of space.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, I don't really like the fact. Okay, so Hikaru has moved. He played the move g5, sort of as we expected.
yeah.
Now let's see what Gary is going to do. So h5, h4 makes sense to me. Also e3 and d4.
You know what's really interesting, Benjamin? Like I'm looking at the games on chess.com and they got these right pawn moves, but the pieces are all in the wrong place. Like they're just in their regular positions.
Oh,
So it's a very funny
that's
thing.
funny.
Like, yeah, we're kind of able to follow the game, but as long as it's been pawn moves so far, I don't know what's going to happen when the piece moves are going to come in differently from what they have on the boards there. But I guess we'll see when we get there.
Right.
So
And yeah, now Gary is thinking, I'm a little bit surprised because, of course, I mean, they didn't have much time to prepare, but you would think that the move h5 is very natural, but he is in thought here. So let's say white goes h4, right?
yeah.
Although, could we potentially we could also consider someone like takes and h5 maybe, right?
Wow. Yeah, and I guess on G5, knight G6 or something.
Yeah, it feels like black is getting some initiative here. Yeah, with like a knight coming to g6, the other knight coming to e6. This feels dangerous for white. So don't think that's quite the way to go. And the funny thing is, in chess 960, there are all these resources that you just do not see coming, right? Because in normal chess, okay, like, okay, how the pieces are going to develop, but here the game is a completely different beast. And that's why sometimes the players take a lot of time already on the first couple of moves. Oh, there's a nice line suggested in the chat. So if takes, rook h1, knight g6. In case of takes, knight f4. Very nice line suggested by my good friend Erwin Lamy. And here, white is checkmated.
Very nice. So Gary, do we think he's going to play h4? I'm thinking he's not.
So then do you think e3?
I like e3. Yeah. I like the center strategy. Seems very safe.
Oh, there we have it. h4 on the board.
All right.
And takes.
Wow.
Is he going to go for it? Oh.
He'll go for it. Oh, wow. He went for d5, which is also actually an interesting move.
Yeah, opening up the bishops. Right, so now he has pressure towards this pawn. So let's see how Gary is going to deal with this. I would think something like takes and bring a knight to attack this pawn over here, because you don't really want to go e6 because you're blocking this bishop, and takes is on the board. So let's see what Gary Chess is going to do.
So knight fe3, and I guess the knight from f8 very helpfully protects the h7 pawn, right? Yeah, it's easy not to notice that's that relationship, but it's quite important. And yeah, I suppose black also wants to centralize his queen with queen e5. Why not? I mean, there's no knight coming to f3 or d3 to attack it. You'll never be able to take on h7 because of rook h8 with the so actually I am liking this position for Hikaru. I think it's working out nicely for him.
Yeah, I feel like he should already have a very comfortable position. So knight e3, you could also consider d4, but then maybe knight f5 could be annoying, and white is threatening a checkmate. Although I guess you can defend against it with something like knight c6, but this doesn't really seem, the way to go for black. So let's see what Gary is going to do. He's in thought here. And yeah, again, to me, knight e3 looks very natural. Bring the knight into the game and attack the pawn.
Yeah, and so if I go queen e5, what happens there? Are you gonna try to trade queens? You can't really queen g3. No, queen g3 is not a very impressive move.
Yeah, maybe queen e5 is completely fine as well. And
Yeah,
I
it
think
seems
here it's
interesting.
difficult for white to develop this bishop on c1. I don't quite see how to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's this idea of sacking the pawn with d4, bishop d2, but it's like it's not an obvious idea at all. I mean, to realize that you have enough compensation here. Yeah, that's
Right.
pretty tricky line to go for as white.
Exactly. And yeah, so the difficult thing for white is that, this bishop is open, but you never want to go d3. And as we see, d4 is difficult to achieve because then that pawn is very often hanging. So I already like the position for Hikaru. It feels like he should have a slight lead in development because if we compare the positions, both of black's bishops are open. He has a pawn in the center and his queen is open. And in the meantime, white's queen is open, but his bishop is still undeveloped. And knight c3 has just been played by Gary, hitting this pawn in the middle of the board. And the main question is, where is he going to go after d4? But Hikaru plays,
Oh,
plays
wow.
a6, which seems rather passive, to be honest.
Yeah, that is a solid but passive move because d4 was a lot more ambitious. Knight e4, kicking the knight somewhere.
Right, because if you go here, I mean, a6 or queen e5, it feels like black is definitely getting the initiative here. So I guess, yeah, 94 is probably the way to go. But I don't know. It feels difficult for white to bring every piece into the game. And with e6, you block in this bishop. Also, these squares here are weak. So now I would think about knight g3 with knight h5.
Yeah. Well, I guess the only advantage of what he did is that he played it pretty quickly, and Gary answered with e3.
Right.
So that's kind of a normal move. Okay, like he wants to play d4 at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's just
Yeah.
talk a little bit about castling, right? Because that's the key in these positions. So white's never. I mean, neither side is going to castle at king side. So they're both preparing the queen side castling, but it's a little tricky for black to get in queen side castling because of the queen on h4, right? So you could try maybe
Oh,
getting rid of
yeah.
the queen, or
Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, I guess at some point we throw in knight at g6. And then the question is, where is white's queen going to go, right? So let's say here, and we go knight g6, queen. Where do you think it should go?
no, it's 3 h5. Either of them seem okay.
Yeah, so let's say here. Well, I think another problem is that as soon as we go knight c6, knight b5 looks kind of annoying to me. And I think we have to go bishop b8. I guess this might be okay, but it feels a little bit off.
Yeah, the knight on g6 is not great. Yeah.
Right, and now also black's queen on h8 will be really blocked in after this move d4, and white's queen is kind of active. So I think Hikaru needs to be very careful here, not to come in, not to end up in a worse position.
Right. So what other options does he have after e3? So okay, well, let's try bishop d7. Sure. Let's start with that because
Bishop
we have to move the
d7.
bishop in order to castle. Well, knight c6. Let's just start with that.
Okay, so let's say bishop d2.
Right. And this is the question, yeah? Okay, so bishop d6, knight
Let's say I go
b5.
here. Because if you go here, I also have queen h2, which looks pretty nasty.
It really does. I mean, rook c8 allowing knight
Yeah.
b6. I mean,
All those dark squares feel.
I mean, I guess I
doesn't feel
have
right.
to take and maybe play queen f6. Is that why it's still okay? Like, why is this not like totally just terrible?
Yeah, I mean, it feels positionally bad, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like you're getting checkmated right away, but any endgame, like let's say I just trade the queens, this endgame feels pretty terrible for black. I mean, this is weak. White has all the dark squares. I would think that white, might already be strategically winning here.
Yeah.
So,
Can we for a second take a look at the game between Nepo and Aronian? Because that one is just fascinating. Like they're already far into it, and it looks like Nepo is winning.
Oh,
And
what in the world happened here?
this looks like a real chess position. It really does.
So it
G6.
started off, yeah,
Okay.
kind of castling.
Ah, so important to get
A5
castle.
seems kind of slow to me.
How did he get the queen into the game? The queen on H1.
I have no idea, but we are about to find out.
Is it like H4?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that is so nice. But I would think you should maybe just go H5.
Huh.
Because how, okay, I mean, there's queen H2, but Levan, you know, he went for this pawn over here, but now came H5 and queen H4 and queen F6 is coming, knight at G4, pawn H6.
Oh, he's hanging.
So
He's giving up the bishop on C2 to do this.
right, because if you take, I guess,
Queen F6.
or you can just take this knight over here.
Yes.
You have an attack.
You're losing on the
one
dark
pawn.
squares, basically.
Right, and if you take now, I guess there's knight F5 or the knight G4 is winning because you cannot stop this. And even if you move the rook, there will be.
Yeah, they've barely, they've played only a handful of like minutes. Aronian still's got 16 minutes and he's just totally losing, right?
Yeah. Lavani always likes playing quickly, but it seems that here it's kind of backfiring. But okay, rook A5 is on the board. So what is his idea in case of knight at G4? I guess here and here, and maybe it's not too bad.
Yeah, because on knight F7, there's some knight H5 move. They get rid of the pawn.
Right, yeah. And also after rook A5, he can always take the knight as soon as it lands on F5. Oh, but actually, wait. Rook to B1 traps the queen.
Oh, this rook,
This should be winning for white. But maybe you can claim that you have some sort of fortress.
Yeah, it's not a lot. You only got 2 pieces for the queen, yeah?
Right. But
yeah,
it seems difficult to break through.
Well, I think he'll find that move winning the queen. It doesn't seem too difficult. All right, let's go take a look at Hikaru's game. They've made some progress.
All right, so after E3, knight G6 was played, queen H5, knight C6, and now G5 by Kasparov. So the question is, why does he play this move?
Yeah, G5.
And so why
right?
did he not play D4? I mean, G5 looks nice as well. But some by Hikaru. I guess now D4. And again, I don't quite see how we are activating our pieces. And this pawn on H7 is now really weak. People are having weird theories as to why Hikaru stood up from the board. But let's see. So D4.
Yeah. No, I know that I think we'll be hearing about the beads forever now.
Yeah. All right. So A6. But let's say white goes here. I mean, how do you even defend this pawn? I mean, I don't want to go knight F8, but maybe you have to. It looks really sad.
Yeah, I think we're in some kind of a bad exchange Slav.
Right. And some people are wondering, how is Gary's rating at 2812? Well, he retired in 2005, I believe. And if you don't play, your rating just stays the same. Which, I mean, it's a good question. Like I think in sports like tennis, if you don't play, you simply don't have a rating or a ranking at all. But in chess, you keep your rating. So what do you think of that?
Yeah, no, I see the problem, of course. And I guess I don't have strong feelings about this, Benjamin. Like, if you sort of like, but I mean, what are they supposed to do? Give him like a 0 rating? Like pretend like he doesn't know how to play chess? Like what would you do? I mean, so I guess this is probably the relatively best solution. Just like let people keep the rating they have, and if they play rated tournaments, they don't do well, they'll lose it. Yes, of course, it means that their rating will remain higher than their actual playing strength for a while, right? But that's probably the best. Or, I mean,
Yeah.
there could be something elaborate, right? Where you like, if you don't play, we take off a little bit at a time, right? But then someone needs to figure out what that appropriate amount would be.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough question. I mean, yeah, I think it's probably fine as it is right now in terms of, you keep your rating, but if you don't play, you will be inactive, so you will not be on the actual rating list. But yeah, I mean, if Gary would play one game right now, he would suddenly be the number 2 in the world again.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, we have more moves. So Hikaru brought his bishop to e7 to cover the f6 square, and now he went long castles. Here, long castles is just a normal move. I think you just move your king to c8, and then the rook over to d8. So let's see what Gary is going to do here. I guess bishop d3, there will be this annoying knight b4 move. And maybe if Hikaru gets
bishop d3, there's also a tactic with bishop g5, right? Queen g5 and knight e5. Is that something you got to watch out for?
Yeah, I guess you sack the queen here somehow, right? Like, let's say you take. This should be good for white, I would think.
Because how many pieces do you have? Rook and 2 pieces, yeah?
Right, yeah.
That's a lot for the queen.
But the good thing for Hikaru is that he's way up on the clock. And we saw Gary in his game against Levon. He got under a lot of time pressure. And also, I remember Gary played in the St. Louis Rapid and Blitz in 2017. And that was also a tournament where he got under time pressure in pretty much every game. So I think that's really what Hikaru is banking on here.
Yeah, I mean, I think, of course, in the long run, if white can play f4, in fact, it kind of, well, an f4, is there some sort of a sack? Is there like a knight takes f4, knight takes d4? I don't think so. But I'd be curious about this move f4 right here, Benjamin, because positionally it makes sense to me as white to go f4. You want to support g5, you want to clamp down on e5, and your general plan is to go like bishop d3 and castles queenside. So what's wrong with this move?
Yeah, I like f4. I mean, you really clamp down on the queen side, but in the meantime, people have pointed out that Hikaru is doing push-ups off stream or off camera. That's why he's not in the frame. But yeah, I like f4, and I don't quite see how we can break down because e5 is now well under control. I mean, maybe like king b8 and rook to c8, but it feels like white should definitely be better after moving this bishop out. And I don't see how we can ever make some sort of sacrifice work, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, so because like you're trying king b8, yeah? So what about like these undermining ideas? They're slightly surprising, like this f6 or even f5. How does that work, like positionally? Yeah.
Oh, I guess you just want to give a check here. Yeah.
Yeah, so knight takes, queen takes, and somehow white is just not having time as knight takes f4 threat here. I think it is.
Yeah, no, indeed, white black has knight takes f4 and pretty much wins the game. So I really like this move f6 because yeah, the problem is if white takes and now goes bishop c2, this check here will be annoying, and you lose the right to castle. So you don't really want to do that. So I assume you take, but then this becomes a threat, and also you can quickly generate counterplay along the g file. So that might be
like
if
we just talk about that position for a second, Benjamin. I mean, strategically, you can almost say that black is just losing, right? Like over here. But the problem is a question of time, right? Because black's position is horrible. Like the bishop on d7 is horrible. The h7 pawn is weak. He's got this backwards pawn on e6. But the question is, like, if white could only have like bishop d3 and castles queenside, I think we could just safely say, it's a time to resign. Like king b8, castles queenside. Like this would be like a dream for white. But white needs to find the time to get that in, right? Which is the difficulty. So that's why black can actually go for this line.
Yeah. So yeah, let's see. Yeah, I think it works out though, as you mentioned, move by move, I think Hikaru gets enough counterplay. So then the question becomes, okay, how should Gary proceed? I think he has to move out this bishop. Let's say maybe bishop c2, because bishop d3, knight b4 is annoying and you have to go back. But I guess after bishop c2, well, again, this move is annoying, right? Maybe you can't move the bishop because this check. Although, I mean, you take over here and there's still knight c4, so I don't know. It looks difficult for Gary, and he's already down to 6 minutes.
Yeah, this is
Gotta
not
move
a
here.
good not a good idea to have that kind of clock management. So like f4, what about f5 there? Because then white has a choice. Do they take on f6? And if they don't, like what if they play knight e5? Let's just take a quick look.
Right, so I think knight e5 could also be risky because I think we'll take. And if you take with the d pawn, there's d4, blasting open the center. I mean, bishop c6 to come.
Yeah, you can't even get your bishop from b1 out. Yeah, that's a problem.
Oh, and he has moved. He played rook to h1, hitting this pawn over here.
Okay.
So let's see what Hikaru is going to do here. Looks tricky.
Yeah, bishop e8, I guess the idea is to protect the pawn in f7 so that when they take on h7, you could trade and take on g5 and just win your pawn back. It's a bit of a passive looking move, but maybe it's doable. I mean, what else can you do? There's rook g7, which looks fairly awkward.
Right.
But I wouldn't say it's like impossible. Like, right, let's put rook g7 on the board. Like, how bad is it? I guess it's pretty bad. It's pretty awkward.
Yeah, it feels awkward because our queen is blocked in.
Yeah.
But again, the question, maybe here f4 and there's no f6. Right. But the question remains, how are we going to solve the problem of the king? I don't really want to play a3 because then knight a5 c4 becomes annoying, and bishop d3 or bishop c2, there's always knight b4, so not that easy. So let's see what Hikaru is going to do here. In the meantime, is there... so Nepo is playing against Levon. This should be winning for Nepo, right? I mean, c3 is protected, and I think he's just going to go for an attack on the king side.
Yeah, I hear the rook and the bishop combo. I mean, I think it's pretty hopeless, actually, right? I mean, white even has queen and pawn for the rook and bishop. His king is safe. And, at some point, yeah, he will be attacking the king, f5, trying to get the pawn to f6. Yeah, I don't think this is going to be holdable. We can also take a quick look at the game Dominguez Svidler.
So this looks really nice for white. I mean, white has a lot of space here. You can go queenside castles on the next move. And I don't see how black is going to solve.
Yeah, I love what Dominguez has here because this looks like a normal position. This looks like a normal chess position for white. But a really kind of a bad version of it for black. And what particularly strikes me, Benjamin, is that knight on d8. Like, why is it like white's knights both look pretty good? Black's knight is still on d8, can't castle. I suppose he could castle kingside into some sort of future knight f5 or h5, which is pretty dangerous. So yeah, this seems like pretty disastrous because the white just castles queenside now and gets total harmony and can go for h5 in the near future.
Yeah, I really like the position here for Dominguez, and this really showcases the strength of having a space advantage. And the thing is, in normal chess, players usually know still how to deal with it because they know where to put their pieces. But here, I think this knight, yeah, as you mentioned, this knight on d8 really likes a good square. I mean, you cannot go b6 and knight b7 because then you block in this bishop over here. You can put the knight on f7, but it's not really going anywhere from there. But I think that's probably still his best option, right? Putting the knight over there, maybe queenside castles, even though it looks very risky because you already played a5. But yeah, it looks great for Dominguez. So he has a great chance to win this game.
Yeah, that would be rough for Peter for sure to start with 2 losses. But we also have Caruana doing quite well against Mamedyarov. By the way, Hikaru played my terrible suggestion of rook g7. Oops.
Yeah, so rook g7 is on the board. So let's see how how Gary is going to continue here. I mean, still only 5 minutes on the clock. He has to speed up because there's only a 5-second increment. So let's see what he is going to do. I mean, I think
Well, can
F4
we
looks
just
good.
take a look at one interesting thing? If he would have played instead of rook g7, this move f5 was a bit a mysterious kind of idea for me, like very active looking. And how does it work that it wasn't just losing a pawn?
Wait, so where?
Yeah, right here, f5
Uh-huh.
after rook h1. Yeah,
So
like
F5.
pawn takes, bishop takes. Now, how is this not just losing a pawn? What's the tactic here? Knight h4. Wow. There's
there's
even
knight
bishop d4. That's insane. Look at that.
This
There was
is
even,
pretty dank.
yeah.
But I mean, oh, and wait, but you have rook f8, but there's
Rook
king
f8 in the
g2.
end.
I
Wow.
mean, if you find this line, you're clearly using beats and you win the bishop back.
Yeah.
Because if bishop e1 or bishop c1, there's rook f1. So this looks pretty dang. Rook g7, of course, much more human. But this should give Gary the advantage. But he's already below 4 minutes. He's got to make moves here.
Yeah, I wonder what is keeping him thinking. I mean, like, just try to castle queenside as fast as you can, right? So bishop c2, if knight b4 just castles queenside, give up that bishop. Now, how big is the advantage in that position, Benjamin?
Yeah, so I mean, if y goes here, I don't know what we were gonna do. I mean, I guess we step our king out of the way, maybe rook c8. Again, it remains a question how we're gonna solve this problem of the bishop, right? Because if you go bishop d3, it will be knight b4. You could potentially, like, you can always move the bishop and sack a pawn. You could also just go queenside castles here, but if somehow a bishop lands up on this diagonal, that would be pretty uncomfortable. But
I think he's
don't
like
know.
waiting for Gary to lose on time. But Gary finally made a move, a3.
All right, so a3, king b8 instantly by Hikaru. So, okay, he's clearly trying to cheese him here on the clock, as Hikaru would say. So now I wonder, if Gary plays bishop d3, is there the move e5?
Did you just say tease him or cheese him?
Cheese him.
Cheese him. Okay. See, I didn't know that expression.
Yeah, he's not trying to tease him with yeah. Anyway, bishop c2 has just been played by Gary. So now the advantage after e5, after takes, your bishop is not under attack. But I wonder, what do you think Gary has in mind after the move e5? Because it's sort of asking to be played, right?
Well, is it being asked to be played? You got it. I mean, okay, knight takes d5 loses to bishop g4. Okay, so I guess that's really important. An important line. All right, so you can't take that center pawn. Let's go back.
Mm-hmm.
So e5, well, so what's the threat? We just want to take on d4, get some counterplay. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
So if you take, am I going to play d4 or am I just going to take on e5? Probably just take on e5, right? Pawn take, just knight g takes. Yeah.
Right, because here the problem is there's bishop g4 coming. So this looks also pretty unpleasant, I think.
Yep. And so Hikaru is still thinking over it. Gary has 2.5 minutes, which I think e5 would be very unpleasant for him with that amount of time.
Exactly. But you could also just keep the tension, like a move like rook c8 also makes sense. And in case of long castles, maybe just, knight a5, knight c4, queen f8, and boom, you go for this stuff. Also not very pleasant to face with 2.5 minutes on the clock. And this keeps all the tension in a position.
Yep. And what if they play like knight f6 here? Are we just gonna play queen d8 or something? Yeah.
I like that suggestion, yeah, because we want to go to this side of the board anyway. And the rook is doing a pretty good job of holding the king side together.
Yeah, we can go bishop e8 next.
Yeah, I think this just holds everything. I mean, knight c4 definitely feels like black's getting a lot of counterplay. Well, it's going to be difficult for Hikaru to flag Gary because there will be 5 seconds of increment. But if the position is complicated, there's of course a good chance that you're going to blunder.
So you are thinking he might play e5 or he might just play
Rook
rook
c8.
c8. That's what he's deciding.
My prediction is that he is going to invest some time in the e5, and if he's not too happy with what he sees, he's just going to go rook to c8, because that's a normal move, right? He just played king to b8, so rook c8 is a logical follow-up. And black's position looks very playable with knight e5, knight c4 coming.
Yeah, I agree. It's actually a very solid plan, and he just keeps the center stable, starts transferring his pieces to the queen side. I actually like that plan a lot, but he just went for the more dynamic e5. Okay, not a bad choice either.
Mm-hmm.
And now it seems like the best move is knight f6. So let's take a look at that. It's not, I mean, okay, it's certainly doable for Gary to find it. And then I take maybe on d5. Yeah.
Pretty dank.
Yeah, I would say that white's knights are looking really good here, and white still is pretty close to castling queenside. His king's not in danger. And I think that's why, objectively, I liked this line less than rook c8.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, if Gary finds knight f6, it could be trouble. But again, the position is so complicated. He only has 1 minute and 50 seconds on the clock here. He's really got to move. I mean, if he doesn't speed up, I think there's a good chance that he's going to end up in a lot of trouble, because, I mean, the position is so complicated. You cannot play this on increment.
Yeah.
Oh, but he does find knight f6. Great move by Gary.
Oh, there we go. He goes in. Yeah, nice. All right. I have to admit, I want Gary to put up a good fight here.
Right. Maybe actually, what about bishop e6 here? Defending this pawn, and then next up we can take here. And still, you know, if you take, I feel like we get pretty active here. I mean, knight c4 is coming, ideas of take, and, you know, something. So I think I like bishop e6 because
also Benjamin, can I say one small tactic?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
G5 was coming as well at some point, like after bishop e6, pawn e5. Well, of course, no one's going to let you do it, but it is a tactic that's on the board, right? Yeah, rook g5, little decoy.
That's a very nice one. Yeah. And bishop e6 has just been played by Hikaru. So again, all the tension in the position. Hikaru has 6 minutes and 40 seconds. Gary down to 1.5. Definitely doesn't seem like the right time management here.
Yeah, so he played bishop e6. That's good. And now the question is, so after castle's queenside for white, why isn't e takes d4 like more of a problem? What's going on with that? You just sack that pawn and keep going? I mean, it's not very obvious.
I don't know. I'm not convinced. I think black's just up a pawn here. I was looking if we can make stuff like this and bishop forward.
Yeah.
But I don't think so, because we take and we hit the queen with a tempo.
Well, what's really going on is the rook on g7 is trapped, right? And that's where white's compensation is coming from. Okay, they made a couple of moves. Gary played knight e2. He didn't want to sack the pawn, which makes a lot of sense as well. So this is a very, very normal move. I would say the knight covers f4. So now on pawn takes, you can just take with a pawn. Your knight's covering f4. I do like white's position. I mean, the queen on h8 is kind of hard to improve, and the rook on g7 can't move. So yeah, I mean, it does look like right now Gary's navigating it well, but he's only got a bit over a minute.
Right. And yes, so 92. Black could also... can black take and go rook to g8 to take this pawn on the next move? Also makes sense, I would think. Right, I mean, castles we take here, and seems all right for black. So I wonder what Gary has up his sleeve there. Who's down to a minute? Hikaru down to 5.5. Let's see what Hikaru is going to play here.
Do you think Hikaru is going to take that knight?
Oh, it looks logical to me. Right, I mean, again, you could also go rook c8 followed by this, but then e5 felt a bit too loose, right?
Okay, so take, play rook g8. Let's figure that out, because, okay, you have a very specific threat of taking on f6, and how am I going to defend it? So let's put that on the board, Benjamin. Bishop takes f6. And rook g8. So what ideas do I have that look findable for a human being? I don't know. Bishop c3. Let's try that one.
So can I take?
If you take, I
Or
mean,
wait,
I
you
was thinking, I mean,
you
yeah,
just
like
go.
I get you in a really big pin, and yeah, there you go, and I win. Uh-huh.
I mean, I don't want to go e4, but maybe it's what I have to do, right?
Right.
Followed by this.
Now you want to get my pawn. And honestly, seems playable. Okay, but f3, f3, what white needs to find because they need to not just give away a pawn for nothing.
Right, but it looks tricky, right? With the king still in the center.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I agree.
so yeah, Hikaru's time advantage is dwindling. I mean, he's now has 4 minutes against 1. So of course,
Big, still a
he's
big
still
time advantage,
right. But I
especially for
mean,
Hikaru.
before you know it, you're also down to a minute.
Yeah. The difference is at that point he's just going to navigate it still much better. You know,
Right.
the question is kind of what's going to be what's going on the board, and can Gary just avoid any big blunders and trust his instincts?
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're
Right.
in for a fun finish in this game, to be honest, because the position is it's pretty fascinating, very sharp, unbalanced, and with a time situation. Yeah, we should be seeing something cool here.
Right. So let's see what he is going to come up with. Hikaru down to 3.5 minutes. Gotta go here. And by the way, Jan already defeated Levon with the white pieces. Yeah, the queen just proved to be too strong against the rooks. I mean, the real problem is that white is launching an attack, and you simply do not have pieces that can defend against it, right? White's attacking on the dark squares. You have a light squared bishop. Also, the rooks are kind of useless. You really need a queen here to defend yourself. So that's where the queen versus the rooks advantage really comes in.
Yeah, also
And by the way,
Dominguez is completely winning up 2 pawns in the knight endgame against Svidler. So he should be taking that game.
right, he only has 40 seconds on the clock, but he should be able to close this one out. In the meantime, Hikaru did play rook to c8, bishop c3, and e4, but now f3. Gary is playing really well, and he's speeding up. Okay, 3
Wow.
minutes for Hikaru. I mean, now he's only up 2 minutes.
So rook c8, bishop c3. He provoked e4, and then he went for f3. And the advantage over with this over what we looked at is like black is not even close to taking on f6, right? Because he still hasn't opened up his queen to do that. So Gary seems like more ahead. The move rook c8 is not particularly useful, once everything is closed here on the C and D files. So right now black has a very big problem with holding that e4 pawn. He probably needs to take an f3, queen f3, and I mean white's positional advantage is just obvious.
Right, and in the meantime, okay, I think Hikaru took on f3 and played queen to d8, but the board is not updating, but that's sort of what I see. I mean, I think Gary's going to go queenside castles.
Yeah.
Right, and that's a move he should play quickly.
He
But he
played
goes
knight
knight to
d3. Yeah.
g3, which feels too ambitious, in my opinion. But maybe it's fine.
Wow. There is some move here that I'm trying to understand what that's about. Wow. Knight c5 sacking a knight c5 sacking a knight and a rook looks insane. I mean, I don't think Hikaru is going to do that. Like, can you really calculate all of that out with a couple of minutes? Knight take, so knight there. Okay, is forcing. You got to take it. You take. Why is this?
I have no idea. I don't know. This looks way too dang to sack the entire board here, and apparently it's fine.
And you're
I don't
like
think he's
down a
gonna.
rook, and you're attacking the knight
Right.
at f6. Yeah, I don't think he's going for this.
But then the question becomes, what else is he gonna do? Right? Gary is starting to go here. Okay, takes on f6. I don't like that decision because now Gary takes the queen, and if he gets the queens off, he should really be better in the end game.
Yeah, and also okay, less chance to blunder something. So Hikaru avoids
Right.
the queen trade. He goes queen c7, king f2. Okay, I'm a little worried for Gary's king and f2, but
yeah. So can you take on h7 here, or is something bad gonna happen? Okay, he goes for it. Maybe like knight f8 followed by, but there's always queen f4. But then knight d4 tactics in the end. Right, like I was looking at, let's say knight f8, let's say rook back, then there's always ideas like here. Although this is probably bad for black, but just to illustrate what black
Yeah, he
can
did
do.
knight f8.
Rook h6 by Gary. Okay, king a8 by Hikaru. Okay, nice move. So queen f4 doesn't force a queen trade. I think it's definitely the right decision, at least practically.
Which move did he
black...
play?
Oh, king a8.
Oh, king a8. Oh.
Right. I think if Hikaru can manage to complicate the position here, he still has good chances to win, because in my opinion, he's much, much better in the time scrambles than Gary. But the position looks tough.
I agree. And I mean, the king on f2 is always something that you can play against, while your king on 8 is pretty safe. So I don't think things are going badly for Hikaru at all at this point. But it's exciting for us because they have leveled up with each other on the clock. And okay, Hikaru goes knight a5. And now Gary's trying to figure this out. He doesn't have a whole lot of time. Looks pretty tense there.
92, yeah, 95, great move by Hikaru, and knight c4 comes flying in. I think everything is, a knight takes b2 could potentially be a threat. Hikaru also down to a minute, but Gary down 30 seconds. Bishop d3, good move. He still has the advantage. So let's see what Hikaru is going to try.
Right, so rook e8 makes sense to like make some threats against the e3 pawn, and it's a pretty simple move, I think. He will do it. It's a definitely annoying threat. I don't even know like how they're supposed to defend. Maybe rook g3 or something.
Right, yeah. Okay, he goes queen d7. Okay, I wonder what the point is behind that move. I don't know. But okay, they're down to 30 seconds. Monka steer. What is Gary gonna do? Okay, knight f4, I guess.
Knight f4 makes sense. Oh, come on, Gary, don't panic.
Okay, rook to h1 played.
Okay.
Okay, and there he goes. Knight to g6, knight f4. Okay, good move by Gary. I wouldn't recommend trading, but how do you deal with all of this? I mean, okay, he trades.
So white is still up a pawn, right? That's the thing. White's up a pawn, but okay, actually, you know, Gary's playing this part kind of confidently.
Rook h8, great move getting the rooks off. Because I think without the rooks on the board, I don't see what can really happen to white. And he's still up a pawn, you know, with the bishop pair.
Yeah, I mean, I guess at some point black can go knight e4 and try to get into bishops of opposite color. Although knight e4 not necessarily even, well, now he forces it, right? So he goes into the bishops of opposite color.
Right, I guess you should still trade everything and go rook h8. Black takes in here. You should hold, but it still feels unpleasant.
Yeah, I mean, okay, that's not too bad for Hikaru anymore, I would say, because white's pawns aren't really going anywhere. But somehow, okay, so he forcing the rook trade. So, okay, white's out of danger, I guess, although I don't know, with white's king, you never know 100%, but the queen went back to e5, which is a good sign.
Right, hitting the pawn. Oh, bishop d5. Here comes f5. I mean, g6 seems like a really tough pawn to stop. I mean, I wonder if Hikaru can somehow come with some counterplay. Maybe you would have to, let's say, tuck in this bishop first, and then try to infiltrate with the queen, right? To make sure that the bishop is never hanging.
Yeah, wow. I mean, okay, at some point you have to be a little careful. Right, he does that. So should white go g6? Is he ready? I don't know. G6 also opens up your king, and there's like e3 check and queen h3. Yeah, it's okay. King e3 is good.
Bishop b7 by Hikaru. Okay, now he's trying to move the queen.
b3.
This could still be a 3-result game. b3 by Gary. Okay, like queen c6. Okay, I guess d5.
Oh yeah, I mean, I feel like anything can happen here. That's for sure.
Okay, king f4, I guess, defending the pawn. Okay, queen c8 and d5 played by Gary. Is a check you take.
f6
and queen g4 by Hikaru. Because if takes, he wants to take here.
d5.
Monka steer, or is there some sort of trick?
Wow. So wait, what's going on? Okay. What is going on queen f3? What? King d2 and just
bishop d4 played. Okay, maybe check and just take here. Starting pawn on the queen side. He's reaching for the queen. Queen f3, king d2 on the board. Is he going to take on b3? This is very Monka steer.
I think there will be some perpetual. I mean,
Nah, I think Hikaru's gonna go for the win. I know him long enough now. He's gonna go for the win, 100%. There he gives a check. Okay, Queen B1. Come on, don't make
But
the
he's
draw.
staying on the dark squares, right? Like, is
Okay,
there?
so a couple checks happened, and he captured on B3. G6 for Gary now. Although G6, he
Yeah,
goes D6, pushing the pawn off the board. Maybe Hikaru
that
just
opens
captures on
up the bishop.
A4.
Yeah, I don't know. That opens up the bishop on B7 a lot.
Queen
Man,
C2,
King
King
G3,
G3.
so E3, I guess.
But what
Yeah,
if you take? And there it is,
I guess
E3
you
on the
can
board.
take. Is there a checkmate? God, I don't know.
Looks tricky. I mean,
Bishop
take with a
E3.
queen. Oh, you're also hitting B6. So check,
Right,
King
King F4.
F4,
He's escaping. I think he's escaping. At
King.
least King G4.
But Queen D2, I don't see how. King E5, the
Wow.
Queen A2. Okay, he's turning Queen E6, which is a huge threat. Queen E6, Queen E4. We made in
Oh
two.
man, even Queen D5 is a huge threat. I mean,
Right. How do you get out of this? I mean, there's always King F4, but then,
oh
Queen E2
man,
back.
this is rough for Gary.
Or Queen D5, actually, also.
I,
Manka steer. So this. Okay, wait, the moves on the board are.
oh my God, he lost his
He
bishop.
blundered.
Oh God, that's so
Sag.
sad.
So I missed what happened exactly. But wait, what happened here? He went.
Oh man, that was super sad. Okay, I'll tell you what happened. Like he he played. Wait, wait. He played
Here?
Queen
Yeah, I think
D5, and then
this.
he just went back and lost the bishop or something like that. That was it. He just lost the
Right.
bishop. Oh, that was
But
so
yeah,
painful.
Hikaru does get the dub. Yeah, that's really what he needs, I mean, if you just lose a game, you really need to come back as quickly as possible. And yeah, he moves to 1 out of 2.
Yeah, I mean it was a good game between these two.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Gary, I mean, could he have saved himself? Like he didn't have to lose the bishop like that, even at the end, did he?
No, yeah, the critical blunder was really in this position to move
Like,
King
yeah,
E3.
King E3 was just a big blunder because yeah, I was thinking Queen E3. That was exactly. Like, how do you lose
Right.
after Queen E3? Just protect everything. Like maybe they'll make a draw and that's it. Wow.
I mean, it's
Oh
still tricky, right? Because his pawn on A4 is weak, and it feels easier to
yeah.
play with black, right?
But
It
he's
feels like
not
it's
gonna
much
lose
easier
this.
to.
Yeah, he's not gonna lose this one though. Like Queen E5 and I mean the G6 idea, like he's not gonna lose. Like on Queen A4, there's
Right,
probably
yeah,
G6, right?
exactly.
I'm
But
sorry,
I mean,
Queen E4, yeah.
you are playing on seconds, and really anything can happen. And I mean,
Yeah.
Hikaru is really good in these time scrambles, and I feel like Gary is much more prone to blundering.
Yeah. Well, what can we say? I mean, it was good. It was a good game. I just always feel disappointed. Like I hate it when Gary loses like this, like
Yeah.
with like blundering a piece after a really good game. All right. Well, that's how it goes. And let's talk about the results. We got Nepo. We know he won. We know, okay, now Caruana won. Looked pretty like a nice final position. Wesley So lost to Faruja, and Dominguez beat Svidler.
Yeah, so pretty bloody round, no draws. So
Yeah.
let's have a very quick look at the standings. So Nepo is the only player in the lead with 2 points out of 2 games. Then in shared second place, we have Fabiana Caruana, Elirosa Ferruccia, and Dominguez on 1.5. And then in shared fifth place, we have Mamedyarov, Nepo and Aronian, and Hikaru, all on 1 point. And then we have Wesley on 0.5 point, and Svidler and Gary still have 0 points.
Yeah.
All right. So I
My
think I really.
compassion really came
Oh,
out during this
yeah.
game, Benjamin.
Yeah, no, it is kind of sad, to see Gary, one of the, one of the greatest players of all time, blunder like that. But it happens to everyone. But with all that being said and done, you guys, we are going to be taking a very short break, but don't go anywhere because round number 3 is coming up very, very soon. And welcome back, everyone, to the Chess 960 tournament in St. Louis. Now, in this round, Hikaru is going to play with the white piece against the leader of the tournament, Jan Nepomniachtchi. And we are getting word that the starting position will be this one. Irina, how do you think Hikaru should start out here with the white pieces?
Okay, so queenside castling seems to be a lot easier to get in here than kingside castling. To queenside castle, you basically just got to move those two bishops out of the way. Okay, so we might see a fianchetto like b3, bishop b2, but probably not. It's just one idea. Well, you know, what I've come to learn today, Benjamin, is I really like putting the pawns in the center. So here you don't have like some queen trapped on h1 that you need to like get out immediately. So I would say, well, definitely not c4, although your bishop could come out to c2 and guard the king. So maybe it's possible. But I mean, I think d4, e4. How about e4? E4 looks. Are we going to get a Sicilian with e4, c5? That'll be pretty funny.
I would doubt it, to be honest. Like, I like the move e4. Again, you want to bring that queen into action pretty quickly. And actually, if black plays the move e5, I kind of like the move f4. Because after takes, we get the center. And black doesn't have a knight jump, which would attack our queen. So I think this already looks pretty pleasant for white. And I don't really see what black should do about that. Because after f4, I mean, you cannot play f6 because you lose a pawn due to the pin. And then, I mean, what do you do? D6 looks kind of passive. So I think this is how white should start out the game. Now, can black
like
play
King's Gambit
Sicilian
style? Yeah.
Right, yeah. But it's not a gambit because we take the pawn right away now. C5 is a move, but I don't really like the fact that it opens his king on this long diagonal. That being said, I don't really see right away how we can take advantage. But again, I think this could be one of those starting positions where white already starts out with quite a serious advantage.
So Benjamin, after e5, f4, pawn takes, like is d4 a move there where we can just not hurry to take, but go for the center?
Right, but maybe here, you know, in true King's Gambit style, we hang on to the pawn with g5.
Yeah, and after h4, like f6 or something?
Right, because there's no check on the king, so...
Pawn takes, and g3, because you're still...
This kind of reminds me
Yeah.
This kind of reminds me of some sort of Slav, you know, but then on the other side of the board.
Right.
Where white takes a pawn. Yeah, it's definitely something to consider as well, but I think just queen takes. You know, just take the pawn, followed up by d4, and I think black definitely has some problems to solve here. I think white here has a serious advantage. So I think this is how Hikaru should start out the game. Like, you could also consider to start out with the move f4, but I think here black plays d5, and it turns into a normal Dutch with colors reversed very quickly because this knight comes out f6, guess c6, bishop c7, this bishop comes out. So I think here black is approximately fine, but I think after e4, black definitely, I don't really see how black is solving his problems, to be honest. I think white has a nice advantage.
You like e4, yeah. Well, Benjamin, before the game start, let me tell you, I found something quite entertaining during our break. So I went to the New York Post, which I like to read, and I found that they have a new story about chess. It's called Checkmate. Huge chess world upset of grandmaster sparks wild claims of cheating with vibrating sex toy. So this is already quite the headline, right? But I also found really funny some of the comments to the article. I'm going to read you my favorite ones because, you know, people are quite funny. And let's see which one. Okay. One of them was, "Are hairbrushes and combs banned in chess matches?" So this is a little like of a mysterious comment. And I was like, what does that person mean? But I guess they took a look at the photos of Hans and Magnus, and that's what prompted them to ask that question. Then there's some other pretty good ones, but how about the other guy says the prize should be a haircut and a comb. So that was pretty nice. I also like this comment, Klein and Rice do the same thing with Biden during his speeches. Well, that was pretty good. And then, wait, this one, very, I guess, by a big fan of chess. So this one says, "So a spoiled dork got upset because he got beat by a different dork that he thought he was better than, who may or may not have cheated. Got it. Let the nerds fight it out so we can go back to not caring. And it's like, okay, that's one perspective. I mean, I gotta say, I still think that chess has the coolest nerds. So
Right, yeah. No, I agree.
yeah, Irina enjoys the New York Post. Oh yeah, definitely. Much more the New York Post than the New York Times.
Right. But yeah, the players are getting there. But yeah, some funny headlines, of course, over the last couple of weeks. Of course, the chess world got a lot of attention again. But yeah, I'm curious how this game is going to go between Hikaru and Nepo, because what I've sort of noticed from Hikaru, especially against Gary, is it felt like he was just trying to get a time advantage, but I don't really think that's going to work out against Nepo. And there we see e4, e5 on the board, and f4, he's listening to the commentators, and Nepo takes it. Oh, by the way, can they adjust this, please? Ugh.
Yeah, so chess really made it into the news. You know, people are just, so fascinated by this idea,
Right.
Yeah.
And 97 by Nepo, I think it's a good move, because if white goes d4, I think he wants to go d5. And, you're challenging the center, because after e5, there's f6, followed by knight g6. And it's quite funny, in the normal King's Gambit, there is that line where after takes knight f3, there's also this move 97 with the idea of d5. Right?
He went for exactly what you were talking about, Benjamin.
Right. Exactly. But yeah, 97 is a good move by Nepo. That's not one we considered. And maybe this holds the balance for black, because he's coming with a very quick d5.
So again, let's try the completely obvious d4. Why is it
d4,
not good?
d5.
Okay, so you're saying that my e5 move is going to get undermined with f6, aren't you?
Right, yeah. I think here black already has a very reasonable position. I would already prefer black here, I would think, because I don't really see how you're keeping your structure intact. Yeah. And Nepo has already stood up from the board. I wonder what he's going to do. People can speculate about that. But let's see what Hikaru should do in this position. I mean, 92. So what is his idea after d5? What do you think? Okay, and there it is. Yeah.
Wow. Who was Nepo analyzing with? I think with Wesley So.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Someone was asking, do the players have time to study the position? Yeah, they have about 15 minutes before the games to study all these new positions. So it's definitely not like they're just seeing it for the first time at the board. All right, so we do have this interesting structure that sometimes we see in the King's Gambit. I mean, white will be playing d4 probably pretty soon. Maybe even c4. I could see that happening. So right now, why can't you? Oh, he plays h3 to stop bishop g4, huh?
Yeah, I think he was worried about that move. But yeah, I think the plan here for Hikaru is to go c4 eventually, like hit this knight. So let's say black goes here, right? I guess we go like d4, followed by c4, maybe move the bishop out, move the other bishop out, and then go queenside castles. And I don't know, it looks pretty pleasant for white. So I think it's now up to Nepo to figure out the right setup, because I think white's next couple of moves are going to be pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I agree. So I guess he could try to castle kingside. He could like try to move the queen to d6 and then maybe get both bishops out and try to go all the way to g8, where he does have that extra pawn. But is it necessary to go to such lengths? I mean, okay, so let's try bishop e6. All right, let's just try that move, because now if you go d4,
right, I could also go knight d4.
You do have that move, bishop. Yeah.
Okay, he played queen in d6, keeping his options open. I think it makes a lot of sense, because it's not that easy for white to harass the queen on the d6 square. And he can still go kingside castles or queenside castles as well. So let's say I think d4, to me that looks the most logical. what is Nepo gonna do here? It's the big question.
So is c4 your next move? I guess it is, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. And
You can't really
these
go like
bishop.
bishop e6. I mean, bishop e6, c4, knight e7. I mean, it feels, yeah, like d5, bishop f5, bishop c2. It does feel pretty nice for white with the space advantage, right?
Yeah, bishop four is coming, and again, like how is black gonna solve the problems, right? I mean, you have to move this knight and the bishop. That looks pretty clumsy, and there we have d4 on the board. So Hikaru is spending a little bit of time in the opening, but I think generally in chess 960 that's very much justified. And actually, I just had a funny idea. Rook knight d3 has just been played. Nepo could also consider to go b5 to go bishop b7, but I guess it's too much because we just go here and there's knight to c5. So I don't think it really works out. But I don't know how I feel about this move knight to d3. Right? Could he also just play c4 instead? But it feels risky, right? If a check lands on this diagonal,
Probably
that
didn't
could
like
be
knight b4,
yeah.
but
No, that's
okay,
a
bishop
very
f5 is not really a threat yet.
right. But it's it's something you have to take into consideration. It feels a little bit loose, right, with your king over there.
Hmm.
94 by Nepo. He's sacrificing a pawn over here.
Yeah, I doubt
Now,
that pawn is going to be captured.
right. Now note that white
Although,
should not play, let's say, knight f4, because I think knight c3 will probably lead to a checkmate.
yeah,
I
that looks like,
mean,
where's
I
the
don't
mate
see
go?
quite
I mean
how
d4, yeah.
d4 looks pretty strong. Yeah.
You're
So you
threatening a
don't want
lot
to
of
allow
double
that.
discovered checks. Okay, so 94, I guess, is quite a good looking move. And
Mm-hmm.
now you can't go, can you still go c4 at all? Does that make sense?
So c4 is a move. But again, knight b4 is annoying. Because after this trade, black is starting knight at d2. Yeah, it looks annoying. I mean, Hikaru could capture this pawn over here. I mean, you're hitting the rook. Rook of a, you capture another pawn. But instead, he goes knight to e5, hitting the knight this way.
Wow. There's an exchange sack here. Oh man,
Right.
I think he's gonna do it.
Really?
I do.
Uh, I
Yeah,
don't know.
I think
I feel like they're probably so unfamiliar with the position that I doubt he's going to give up the exchange here. But it's very much possible, I guess, because it's still very difficult for white to develop. And black can, let's say, bring in this bishop over here, the other one over here. But I guess, you go c3, bishop c2, and if black doesn't show anything, you are up in exchange, right?
all right. So you're going bishop c2, bishop f5, bishop c2. I guess the question is how you're getting the bishop on c1 out, Benjamin, right? After bishop c2, bishop f5. I mean, you have trouble moving your bishop so you can castle.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. Yeah, like I don't see a good score for this bishop.
Because you don't even have
that
like, yeah. And actually, wait, now I'm about to castle queenside, right? King c8, rook d8.
right. Yeah, and the funny thing is that your king actually gets moved back to c8. Right, usually castle and then you tuck your king on b8, but actually
Yeah.
it gets on an unsafer square. Just to illustrate, like if white, well, actually, so white goes here, you go queenside castles, and the king ends up here. Oh, but he's gone for it. Oh, you're right.
There we go. Look, I'm so good at predicting those exchange sacks, Benjamin, because that's like my favorite thing in chess, the exchange sack.
Right.
Actually, one of my best games at the Olympiad, was actually a positional exchange sack.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah, so I really love this theme. And okay, of course, these top players, they like to seize the initiative. And I do feel like it's a little ironic if like Hikaru, let's say, he's not going to lose, but if he did, that he would be losing 2 games against an exchange sack, right? That's too much.
Right, yeah.
We don't want that to happen.
Exactly, and both times in the middle of the board, for a knight. But yeah, it looks tough because just to illustrate, like let's say you make a random move, right? Like I don't know, black is always going to put this bishop over here, and now you're really stuck because you do not have to move c3, and in the meantime, black is going to pile up the pressure with the move bishop f6. So I really think he has to go c3 here to answer bishop f5 with bishop c2. But again, after bishop f6, I don't see a good way to continue because your king and rook are just so stuck here. I just don't see it.
Yeah, it's tricky to get the bishop on c1 developed, and plus, what's interesting? So let me ask you: if black castles before you, are you still able to castle queenside? Are you still able to do that and put your king on, your rook on d1?
I think yes. I think so because well, let's try it out, right? So let's say we just hypothetically, right? Let's say we move this bishop over here, and let's say black castles. I think we can. Well, you know what? We can even castle kingside.
Oh wow! And
But I
that's how you
guess
win.
that's actually how you win. Yeah, that's
Wow. Wait,
oh my
show
God.
me that again. How did that happen? Hold on. Because sometimes you just forget that you can castle like that, and that's so important. Wow. Look at
But
that distance between the king and the rook, guys, and you can still play the king to g1.
right, and actually, it's something your opponent can also very often forget about. They're like, "Oh, I'm having this big attack on the king on the queen side,"
Yeah.
and then oh, there he goes all the way over to the king side. Now bishop h6 was of course not a good move, but I was just wondering
Hikaru's still thinking. Yeah,
hypothetically.
he's getting a little lower on time.
So
Oh,
hypothetically,
that's
if
a
black
cool
casts,
idea. Let's show that move. Hold on. There was a knight c3 somewhere. Where was that?
oh yeah, black has this really nice knight takes c3 move
Wow, that's
because you can
beautiful.
right. You cannot take with the knight, then you hang your queen. And if you take with the pawn, then I mean black gets a big attack over here. So you also don't want to go into that. But I was just curious over here, right? Like if black castles, I'm pretty sure we cannot go kingside castles, but let's try it out. No. Can we go queenside castles? Yeah, we can. So I think the lesson to be learned here is that we just have to check whether the king crosses a covered square. Like if we go kingside castles, we can't, but the rook can.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's what I thought. Yeah, that the rook shouldn't have a trouble going to a square where she's attacked.
But
But
I think that's the same case in normal chess, right? Like let's say your opponent has, for example, a knight on d2, right? It covers the b1 square, but I think you're still allowed to go queenside castles. You get what I'm saying?
yeah, you are, yeah.
Right, yeah. So it's the same situation here.
Right.
Now, Hikaru is thinking, but yeah, I don't really see anything better than c3. You have to get your king out of the middle, or sorry, you have to get the bishop on the diagonal to
Yeah, I mean,
neutralize
the
the
reason we
pressure.
don't see that in regular chess is like in that similar situation, like if there was a rook on d8, your king would always be on e1, right? It could never go through that file, so your rook could never land into an attack. But because the king is coming from a different direction, doesn't have to go through the rook's attack on the d file, then you can get your rook to d1.
Right. So let's see. I mean, again, I think c3 is forced. The main question will be, what do we do here if black lines up all of his forces? Because I don't really see how we get this bishop in. I mean, maybe we have to go rook d1 and after queenside castles. Actually, what is this? This might be the way to go, to hit this knight over here. And then maybe bishop out, because the nice thing is, if we manage to do all of that, our rooks will suddenly be doubled on the default. But again, I think something bad is going to happen.
How does that work? So knight takes, knight takes, knight takes. There's okay, hold on. Let's try to work it out. Like, so knight ec3. If pawn takes, oops, what happened, Benjamin?
He goes rook f1. Makes a lot of sense. Taking the f5 square away from the black bishop. Now, another idea for black, and it looks pretty tempting. What about this? a5.
Trying to get the rook out from a6. Yeah.
Exactly. And also, by the way, there's rook f6 sliding over all of the way. And I don't know what's wrong with Kuroki in the chat, but that is actually what your mom said last night. But let's see what Nepo is going to do in this position. I mean, a5 is a really good move, but I don't think it's easy to find.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Nepo, that's the kind of thing that is up his alley. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he found it because it's you have to do a lot of work to castle here, but if you can just keep your king on b8 where he's pretty safe. So I do think like a5 is at least actually an intuitive enough move. Now, I guess taking on f7 is like not really possible, right? Like no one can be that greedy, Benjamin, or what do you think?
Yeah, no.
Just rook a6 probably, or
yeah, and the same problems still remain. Rook b6 is coming, and then it feels like something bad is going to happen over here.
Can I show you something cool?
Oh, and he has played a5. I mean, Nepo he's playing amazing.
Yeah, but look at this. Queen f7, bishop f6, and there is a beautiful checkmate coming.
Wait, so how? So if we take rook a6?
No, bishop f6. Right here.
Okay.
Do you see the beautiful checkmate?
Oh, this 92.
Yeah. Cool.
Right. That's pretty tough to stop. I mean, c3, you feel like some sacrifice is going to happen?
Yeah, I'll definitely sacrifice. Or play bishop f5. Yeah, or rook a6 even. Yeah, it's very unpleasant. Oh, I don't really like that, Hikaru is letting his opponent sack the exchange like this.
Right.
Because these people love these positions, right? Mamedyarov and Nepo, like they like to attack. They like to have the initiative.
So what Hikaru might have to do here is to move a4. So that after rook a6, you can go rook a3, rook b6, and rook to b3. I mean, and since there's no bishop f5, you oh, but is there?
Yeah, same
again,
idea.
This looks pretty gross because also knight b4 is coming. I don't really see how you hold the position together here, to be honest. Anyways, so let's see what Hikaru is going to do here. I mean, it looks pretty tough. He's already down 4 minutes on the clock, and Nepo's attack really plays itself, it seems.
Yeah.
So let's have a look, right? So let's say
okay.
A4.
Well, so that c3 move is just no good anymore.
Oh, of course. If he takes, we can take with the queen. That's of course the way to go.
Yeah, this looks at least relatively okay, safe.
And what about rook f6? Then we can block g5. Rook e1. I mean,
okay, that's hard.
Figuring that out.
That is really hard. And there's also knight c3, some kind of knight c3 here. Wow. Well, like queen e1, queen d5. Crazy line.
Right. Yeah, apparently, yeah, the balance remains here because black still has this move. But I don't know, not easy. A5, really good move by Nepo, bringing the rook into the game. Look at these knights in the middle of the board. They're pretty active. So, yeah, I don't know how Hikaru should deal with this, to be honest. He's coming in super fast. All right. Because here, okay, so what about c3, right? So I guess black goes here, bishop c2, and now again rook f6.
Jan just got up from the board.
Tough.
Well, we already have some big advantages on these boards. Like apparently Aronian has a winning position against Dominguez. And let's just take a look at it for a second. Well, Aronian has a lot more time as well. So why is this position so terrible? Hold on. Let me try to figure it out, Benjamin. So first of all, it's really funny because the pawn structure resembles Hikaru's pawn structure. So these guys obviously, I mean, you got the except it's reversed. Instead of like Hikaru was the one who had the center majority versus the king side, and this position is the other way. Okay, but it did remind me of that. So okay, I guess white first of all just has better development here. I really like the rook on e1. The two knights in the center already have solved their problems, and e6 square is nice. I mean, a5 is just a huge threat. In fact, I mean, it's already coming. And you're going to have to probably give up your bishop, the bishop pair. Your king is in trouble. I'll be threatening rook e7 and knight c6. Okay, so there's tactics as well. Yeah, like this is a real disaster for black.
Yeah, I know for sure. And yeah, Levon is also putting that a pawn to work. So I guess he's definitely looking at a5. With the idea being that if the bishop moves, you have this idea of rook takes e7, and if black recaptures, there's knight takes c6 checkmate. And taking the knight doesn't really solve the problem because there's another knight coming in. So after a5, black is really forced to take here, I believe, and then hope that this somehow works out. And as we speak, a5, bishop takes d4 is all on the board. So I guess Dominguez is going to take here, but it looks extremely dangerous. Someone's asking a weird question in the chat, but anyway, let's move on here. Hikaru's still thinking. Tough.
By the way, we also got Firouzja, who's not doing that well against Mamedyarov. We can take a look at what is troubling him.
So let's see.
Wow.
So this also
he has a
looks
problem with a d pawn, right? Like he just can't move his knights because the d4 pawn would hang. And
wait, knight g3? Doesn't that just win a piece?
It really
But I guess
does.
he's sacking
got
it,
some
and he felt like that.
censor, yeah.
Right.
Okay,
So
and Hikaru is
takes.
still thinking, and Jan is again back up off from the board. He came and then he left.
Chaduk's asking, do I like Stroba? Well, of course. Anyway, let's see. Favorite food? Pasta or whatever. Knight g3 on the board. Okay, so I guess rook to g1. But you're just down a piece. I mean, this rook on b6 is a little bit clumsy, and this pawn is hanging, but it's hard to believe, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, once the bishop captures an f4, what do you got? You got like 2 pawns for the piece. I mean, okay. It's not the worst position I've ever seen down a piece, but I mean, it's not great, but yeah, Mamedyarov should find a way to win. I wonder, there's no like knight h5 here, yeah? You don't want to like somehow protect that pawn?
Right.
What do you think about knight g to h5? Is that just a stupid idea?
After takes? Or yeah.
Yeah, like it's black's turn.
I think that makes... Yeah, but I guess here bishop d2 comes in, hitting the pawn on a5, and still feels tricky.
Yeah,
right?
so well, in that case, I still feel like there's still work to be done.
But a few more moves have been played after a5. Hikaru went queen to d3, rook a6 and c4. Wait, but this feels extremely risky. Like there's knight b4, but does black?
Ooh, hold on. Let me find some stuff here. Hold on, Benjamin. I like to train myself.
I was also thinking
the tactics that I don't see. Yeah, it takes. So now all we got to do to checkmate. Hold on. All we got to do to checkmate is move our knight from e4 and get that check on with a queen. So where do we move?
Knight b4 is on the board. I was thinking maybe you start with rook d6 first. The queen goes to...
Yeah, and she kind of has to keep hitting you because otherwise bishop f5 is just too painful.
Right, so let's say the queen goes to f8.
Oh man, Nepo is off from the board again. He's just so confident.
Oh, I see it. Queen
Hold
takes
on.
D8.
Oh,
Rook
don't tell us.
D6.
Don't tell us. Okay, so let's say Queen F8, and is there already a Knight D2?
Well, then
I mean, I'm
still
sure that
take.
wins too. I mean, that looks completely winning, right? Like even that, just Knight D2, Bishop D2, Rook D2. I mean, it's just like I must
But
be
still
mating.
Knight C3 there.
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
Well, let me know if
Oh,
I may say it.
hold on. Yeah, I'll let you know when you can say. Me and the
Okay.
chat, we can like look for the win. So, okay, you can put that on the board to make it easier for us. Here we go. Queen D8, Rook D6, and Queen, let's say F8. Okay. All right, guys, let's just think how we're going to do this. So, Knight D2, Bishop D2, Queen E4, King C1, Knight D3, King B1. I mean, I'm so close, but don't see the mate. Okay, hold on.
He's taken on D8, by the way. So now let's see what Nepo is going to do. I think Rook D6 and Rook D6 is on the board.
Yeah. Okay. I mean,
I think it's just over. Well, guys, keep thinking. So how does Black win after Queen F8? I think I see it.
There's also, I mean, well, there's also Knight C3, Knight C3, Rook D1. It's kind of interesting because you can't take either way. What do you think about that one, Benjamin?
But then, yeah.
Rook
That might be
D1.
winning, yeah.
I mean, it looks like I'm making a lot of threats, but okay, you're saying there's something even better. Hold on. Yeah, so do we get any help from the chat? Take the bishop on D1, then knight D2, bishop F5. Well, the bishop is pinned.
Yeah.
So okay, let's try again. So Queen F8. What choices do we have?
Nepo, by the way, looking at us, he's like, sorry, chat. I mean, I'm just here doing my job. What can I say?
Yeah.
He's giving Hikaru the stare now as well. Or not looking happy. This guy gonna move.
What about Queen F8? Wait. And just you can't go Queen F8 just Rook D1 straight up, can you?
I think you can.
Straight up. Rook takes
Rook
D1 and hold on. Knight D2.
Right. Yeah, I think that is the way to go. Like you take here.
Yeah.
Check. And then mate.
Yeah.
And I don't see what we can do about that. I think it's just completely lost. I just turned on the lines again. It's saying -13. You can literally resign here.
And then there's like after Queen F8, like there's probably multiple ways to win, right? Like Rook D1.
Yeah, but I'm sure he sees Rook D1. It's
because it's like, yeah, it's a pretty clear checkmate idea. So put Queen F8 on the board, Benjamin. Let's just see. I mean, I just want to see how many other ways there are to win, right? So yeah, look at Knight D2. That was one of my ideas. That also wins. Yeah, like this one. I
thought still here.
Knight C3 and then
now you take, right.
Oh, that's
Hikaru should offer a draw. I think he should try it out. Maybe Nepo will take it. I think it's a good try. But okay, he took on D6.
Wow, this is like quite a convincing game, I have to say. Someone in the chat said it's more than impressive. Well, I kind of agree. It's good statement.
I'm a little bit surprised that he took with the queen. I thought, to be honest, knight takes, because I don't see how
gave
you
up
stop.
the queen, yeah.
Right, but okay, B3 now, knight D2.
I really think it's time to bring out the pineapple shirt. I mean, this is the blunder of the day. Yeah, I don't feel like Hikaru feels the same power without that pineapple shirt.
Exactly, yeah. Nepo's just gonna
Hikaru just looks so disgusted with his game, like, and Nepo is like, I'm sorry.
I mean, I think after, if I even just practically already very difficult for white. I mean, rook a6 and rook b6, and but okay. I mean, Hikaru didn't defend very well, but okay. I mean, I win the first 3 games. It's okay.
That was a good impression. Yeah. Yeah,
anyway,
wow.
so
Good day for Jan. I mean, 3 out of 3 is really, really good.
Yeah, he moves in the lead with 3 out of 3. Tough day for Hikaru. I mean, he beats Gary with the black pieces, but yeah, tough losses against Shaq and against Nepo with the white pieces. But he should be joining us very, very soon for an interview, you guys. Because remember, we are.
Can we see? Let's see how Gary is doing. Let's take a look at Gary's game.
For sure.
Gary is playing Caruana. Wow.
All right.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we're getting word that he is here right now. So let's let him in.
Yeah.
Hello.
Oh, hello. How's it going?
Good. How about yourself?
We're doing pretty well. Your microphone is a little bit low.
Should be better now.
Yeah, it just got better.
Yeah. What's up, you guys?
Yeah, we're just chilling here. So yeah, obviously, tough day at the office. I guess. How would you summarize it?
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating. I did what I did last year. I mean, exact same thing. On the first round, I think I was just much better out of the opening, and then I just kind of started drifting, lost my mind. Against Chakra, I mean, I think after this whole f4 bishop g6 thing, I'm probably much better. But for some reason, I just didn't really sense danger. And in that middle game, I was just like, I just started drifting. I thought I was much, much better. Bishop g3, I thought was kind of ridiculous, actually. I mean, that was not my initial intention. My intention was to play bishop h4, and then I played bishop g3. I thought bishop h4 or something like f6 takes g5 f5, and then some knight h3, g5 f5, knight h3, followed by bishop g3, and some knight f4. I thought was probably good for me, and maybe it's not. Okay, computer likes, yeah. Okay, a5, yes, of course. a5, obviously, and black's better. Yeah, that's okay. Right. Yeah, that's a good one. No, I mean, I thought I was better, and then I didn't even here after d6 takes 6. I should just trade the bishops and play the game. But the problem is I was trying too hard to be creative, and as you learn in 960, generally when you're trying to be too creative, it tends to backfire for the most part. So I mean, it was just very careless what I did. So there really was no need to lose that game. That sort of set a trend of things going the wrong way. I did get a little bit lucky in the second game. Obviously, I won against Gary from this middle game position. Where I was probably I don't know if it was like much worse or just kind of worse, but again, I didn't really feel like I was seeing a whole lot, and I was just kind of missing things. The third game was just gross. I don't know what the computer evaluation was in the third game, but somehow I think I was just lost maybe after he sacked this exchange, which is just completely insane. But I mean that I can't really be mad about third game, which is kind of bizarre to put it mildly.
So Hikaru, how surprised were you by the exchange sack? Was it like in this third game where you expected he would do it, or?
I mean, I wasn't sure, but it's just it's apparently very good, right? It's just good for black or something.
I mean, it's decent. Yeah, like you're not losing, but yeah.
Right. And White's path to quality is very thin. I mean, you have to go c3 and bishop c2, we thought, to neutralize the diagonal. So what do you think here? We thought like bishop f5.
Yeah, I thought bishop f5 and bishop f6 and castles, and I thought, like, yeah, rook d1 and
we also
castles.
Didn't see how. Yeah, we also didn't quite see like how White can get his pieces into the game, and Black always has these sacks.
Yeah, I mean, okay, computer says rook d4 and a4, of course. I mean, typical kind of nonsense that doesn't make any sense at all. No, I mean, this game is just very strange, very strange. To his credit, Jan obviously found the exchange sacrifice, and I mean, I didn't respond with c3 like I should have, but it's just bizarre. I mean, because this a5 move somehow, this rook a6, rook f6, I think is just winning, and it's just, all very, very strange. So it's obviously disappointing. But as I said, I can't really be upset with the third game, but the first game I never should have lost, and that was just very self-inflicted. But I mean, it is what it is, unfortunately.
Right.
Had an interesting matchup with Gary. I mean, what are your feelings about that game? I mean, he played some part of it quite well, right? And then things kind of got out of control in the opposite color queen and bishop endgame.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem is for Gary, obviously, he's still a very strong player, but he tends to use too much time. Like, he's trying to use all this time to get that advantage on the board. And generally, when you do that and you get really low on time, it's going to be very hard to be precise. And everyone these days at the top level is a very good defender. And I think he just used way too much time trying to prove that advantage. Like, he was trying so hard to prove like some kind of advantage out of the opening, and he used just way too much time to get there. And then, I mean, in the end game, I misplayed it. Like, I have to say, this time control is just it's just killing me. This time control in like the rapid before, and also in the 960, I just like, I'm not, for whatever reason, I'm not able to use my time the way that I should be. Because in that game against Gary, I was up 8 minutes, and then I played E5, which was maybe okay, but then I played E4, which is just terrible because of F3, and I just, somehow I've just, this time control, it's killing me every event that I play in. So it's frustrating, but that's that's kind of how it goes, obviously.
Right, yeah, that's also kind of my experience, that it can be tough because you feel like you have a lot of time and then it vanishes very quickly. But yeah, we wanted to ask you, like, is this a new shirt you got? And actually, why are you not wearing the pineapple shirt? Because you were really on a shirt when you wore that in the Blitz portion.
Well, I didn't bring that with me, obviously, so that's a simple answer. No, it's just something I thought I would wear. It's something different. Try to be a little bit fashionable, obviously. And
are there some chess pieces on that shirt, or
there are some chess pieces? Yeah, there's some chess pieces. There's a pineapple. It's a nice shirt.
Oh, okay.
All right, very nice.
Yeah, so I mean, it's all good, but it's frustrating because I mean, two years in a row I've come to the 9-6. Now, mind you, unlike last year when I lost 3 games start, at least I got a win, but it's just very frustrating because the first game changes everything. If I don't lose the first game today, it's very different. Just like last year, if I don't blunder in that end game against Chakra, it's all different. So it's a little bit frustrating, but it's at the end of the day, as I always say, there's sort of a silver lining. If I play like garbage here and do badly in the 960, that means I'll probably do well in the League Chess qualifiers for the World Championship, which objectively is more important. So hopefully that's how it turns out. But it's obviously disappointing overall.
Right, and I just wanted to ask you, like, how is it to be back in St. Louis? I mean, obviously a lot has happened. We're having these broadcasts with a bit of 15-minute delay. I guess the fair play checks have tightened. So how is that for you?
Yeah, I don't mind it at all. If anything, it gives me a chance to get back quicker than the past, where everybody has to wait for me for an extra like 5 to 10 minutes. So from that standpoint, it's different. I saw some nonsense people saying things like I wasn't analyzing with other people or all that crap from RHS. Pardon my English for a second, but I did see some of that nonsense. But the thing is, normally the way it works is people find groups at the start, and I actually arrived very late today. I arrived like 5 minutes late after they'd already given the position and everything. So that's the actual reason I wasn't looking at things with people. And just again to give some of those some context as well. Most of the players who are here, they had very supportive words for me last night at the opening ceremony. So I'll leave it at that.
Supportive in what sense?
I said supportive. I said supportive. Enough said.
Yeah, right. I think we can make some deductions from that.
Yeah.
So tomorrow, Hikaru, you have got Dominguez, Svidler, and Aronian. So we wanted to wish you good luck, and you can still totally turn all of this around.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously possible. Like I said, it's very frustrating, and again, like the thing is, when you get like a good position out of the opening at 9-6, you'll kind of throw it away. It's very annoying. I mean, I guess in normal chess too, you get a good position, you throw it away. That's also very frustrating. But yeah, it's a fun tournament. At the end of the day, I mean, that's the thing to remember, is that this is a fun event ultimately, and you try to play good chess, but you see what happens. And today wasn't very good, but of course, if I have a couple good results tomorrow, it still could be pretty decent.
I think the key is just not to allow your opponents any more exchange sacks.
Well, I mean, I don't even think it's about that. It's just somehow the exchange sack was very strong. I mean, it's just
in both games, right? I mean, against Mamedyarov as well. Yeah.
Well, no. I mean, against him, by that point, I had already completely messed the whole thing up. It was already terrible by that point against him. I mean, I should just trade bishops, and it would have probably been a draw or something very slow, nothing very exciting. So it's not that one. I mean, the one against Jan, it's just bizarre. I don't have any other words for it. It's just bizarre that it seems to just Be very good. It's just bizarre. But I mean, I guess that does happen from time to time. That's like, what can you do? Just bizarre.
Yeah, sometimes these weird resources appear in chess 960, and I mean that's also what makes the game more fun.
Yeah, although it sucks too, because when you lose a game like that, you're just like, why aren't we just playing regular chess?
Right.
But at the end of the day, also that's the other thing that's very tricky. I think is not even just specifically the time control. But when you play 960, knowing when to use the time, it's very hard to know, because at the start of the game you don't want to spend like 5 or 10 minutes because that's half your time. But in a way, you probably should. And I think like in the Hikaru game in particular, I was moving way too fast in that opening. Like I think I made like the first like 5 or 6 moves in maybe a minute, and he used about like 7, 8 minutes. And then suddenly after that, I started thinking a lot as I kind of had to, and it's just the whole rhythm of the timing and how you use that time. It seems to be much more critical, and it's very, very tricky to figure out what the right balance is. So yeah.
Yeah, no,
anyway.
It definitely is. Yeah, because 20 minutes is still quite a bit of time. So yeah, you probably should think a little bit in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing also is very tricky is like when you get the 5-second increments, somehow like it is a lot of time, but it's also not a lot of time. If you can play 5 quick moves, you're going to get 25 seconds. But also, if you can only play 1 quick move, you get 5 seconds, and just like that, you're right back down there again. So it's just very, very tricky, very tricky. So yeah, it's what it is. I mean, it happens. And obviously, like I said, third game, I mean, I'm just kind of shocked more than anything that it's just so good for black. But apparently Jan had looked at it, not surprisingly, and that's just how it goes sometimes. If you lose games like that, it's always a lot easier than losing games where you have chances. Like a game like that, I can't really be upset. And if you're going to lose a game, that's always the best way to lose.
How much do you enjoy playing Fischer Random?
Honestly, I feel like it's very result dependent. I feel like if you're in a situation where you're doing fine in an event where you don't have to like try very hard to win with either color, I feel like in general it's a lot more pleasurable, and it's easy from the standpoint that you aren't really worried so much about creating imbalances. You sort of just play whatever you feel are the best moves. Whereas when you're in a situation where you need to win, doesn't matter white or black, it's very hard sometimes avoiding symmetry in positions that feel very, very dull. So I feel like it's very result dependent in terms of whether I enjoy it. For example, like 2 days ago when I played the lead chess event, I was enjoying it. Now, obviously I was doing very well, but all the positions were very creative, very different, and there weren't really many where it seemed like we were getting symmetrical positions. And so that's fun. That's when it's fun. But when you're getting like these positions where you feel like you have to press, but you want to avoid playing symmetrical, then sometimes it can be a little bit monotonous, not fun to enjoy. And also, on that note, the other thing that I would say very specifically is that that's why I think Magnus in his match against Wesley, what was it, last year, 2 years ago? I mean, I don't even remember when it was, but the score became so lopsided because Magnus was in the same situation where like he had to try and be creative, and he didn't want to play like symmetrical or things that were drier. And because of that, that's why that score became so lopsided the way it did. I mean, Wesley obviously deserved to win, but Magnus was trying every game, and then it just wasn't happening. So I think if you can just play normally and that you don't have to worry about like winning, drawing, whatever might happen, I think it's a lot of fun. But when you're in a situation where you lose a game and then you're trying really hard, I feel like it's a lot trickier to play and find it enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. But the part where you don't have to prepare much must be nice, right? You don't have to do your typical like hours of preparation before a game.
Yeah, I mean, of course, the fact that you can just show up and play is always it's great. I mean, it's much better than playing a normal chess event, because then you have to actually try and prepare and study before the event. But it's just disappointing because the second year in a row that the first day of playing in the 960, I've just completely bombed it out. I guess 1 is better than 0, of course, but still, it's a little bit frustrating.
Right. So what is your plan for tomorrow? Like, what are you going to do? Or for tonight, let's say, to
I mean, I wouldn't say that there isn't really anything you can do. I mean, maybe you can look at certain positions randomly and just try to figure out setups. But that's just, I mean, maybe I would go online and play some games, but even that I don't think really makes a difference. So probably I'll just go enjoy dinner. My parents are here, so I'll probably go do that, and then just try to play well tomorrow.
All right, nice.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Obviously, it's just like I said, frustrating. But hey, if I'm going to do terribly here, but then I do well on the lead chess event, I'll take it.
Yeah, sometimes we just have bad days. So enjoy your dinner, Hikaru, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, see you guys tomorrow.
All right, see ya.
Bye, everybody.
All right, bye.
All right, Benjamin. So, by the way, I think we got the last few seconds of Caruana Kasparov. Maybe we want to just pull that up because there are a few games that are still in progress. We don't have results to too many. We see Aronian beat Dominguez, but this seems kind of interesting. So wait, 20 seconds for each player. And Caruana is okay. They're going to be trading. So I guess a draw from now is maybe the most likely result, but okay, still anything can happen.
I think so too. Yeah, rookie won by Fabiano, 15 seconds. Okay. Wait, takes an FE. Oh, wait, there's a fight. Oh, takes FE, rookie 7, rook f1. Takes G3, and you win a piece. Rook f1, rook f1 and G3.
Oh no. Oh no. Don't tell me that Gary
He's gonna find
again.
No. But I mean, not a lot of pawns left. Rookie 4 now, you take here. Is White gonna be able to win that? I mean, you only have one pawn, or probably only one pawn left.
How about we take a look at Perugia Mamedyarov? That one looks crazy. Svidler is losing again.
Has happened here. This is also Monka steer.
This is like, okay, White's down a piece. Black King is running around the center. White's trying to mate him. Rook D1 is a big threat. I don't know. Queen D2 was the move I was looking at, but check and King C7 is forced. Oh, King C7. You can actually do King C7 too, right?
Well, King C7, there's check and Queen A6 in one game.
Okay,
so you have to go here, check, and then King E. It goes Queen D3. Okay, Queen D4 now. Okay, Queen B3 by Ali Reza. Do you think he saw that line, but he rejected it? Okay, 7 seconds for check.
I wonder what else he can do here. I mean, what is White's? Okay, White's threat is Rook D1, right? So Queen D3. I mean, so are they just repeating? I mean, I think they're going to repeat. I think they just don't have enough time to make any other decisions here.
I feel like there should be something for Shaq to play on, but it looks so tricky on like 5 seconds.
Yeah, with like a few seconds, like he's just not going to risk it.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think this one's probably.
So they're making a draw, but let's go back to Fabi then. Fabi is now beating Gary.
Well, this game is still not over.
But, it's over. It says draw. It says draw, right?
Well, that's because they repeated 3 times, but in the meantime, they stood up from the board. So maybe Gary flagged, or did he just resign? Probably, maybe it's probably resignable, right? So let's check in. Maybe there's still something else. I mean, they haven't agreed to a draw yet, or not a half, it seems. Okay, and Fabi has beaten Gary. Yeah, Gary probably flagged in the last position, is my guess.
Oh, that's sad. Can we show where he went wrong? Like,
yeah. So we were watching, and Bishop takes B5 was
he was winning. Can we just show the part where he was winning? Because Gary was winning somewhere around here, right? Like, what was the win?
Yeah, he could have taken on F1 and then taken
Bishop G2. So he's basically just up a pawn.
Very strong knight in F4.
Yeah. King coming to E5. Okay, so he's in great shape here. So instead of doing that, what does he do? He just blunders something.
Well, this was fine, but now came Rook FE1, and this was the big mistake because now Fabiano took. He created this fork on both of the rooks, so Black is forced to take, and White recaptures with the pawn. So now this rook is under attack, and the knight. So Gary won Rook E7. And you cannot take us and you hang your rook, but there's rook
wait,
F1.
Can you show us? Oh, and knight D3 was bad. Okay, because of rook F1. Okay, you can't move your knight because rook F1 just wins. Okay.
Exactly. So Gary played rook E7, pinning the pawn on E3, but Fabiano unpinned himself with rook F1, sacrificing the pawn on E3. But now came G3, taking advantage of the fact that this knight is pinned. Now Gary might have still had chances for a draw, but he went wrong here as well, and Fabiano did a good job at cleaning up the game. Yeah, here the position stabilizes and Fabiano managed to win.
Yeah, well, let's just talk a little bit about who is the big winner of the day in terms of the standings. After 3 rounds, we got Nepo on a perfect score, 3 out of 3. Really great day for him, and I'm sure he was very pleased with this win against Hikaru. We got Fabiano on 2.5, Ferrugia on 2, Aronian on 2, and Wesley Shack Dominguez on 1.5, 50%. And wow, we got, the sad thing I have to point out is that Gary and Peter have 0 out of 3. They've been working with each other on these positions. Somehow that hasn't, I don't know, at least translated into any points for them. It is, quite sad because, of course, these players were, well, they were at the top of the world's rankings in the 1990s and 2000s. And somehow it is a tough tournament for the veterans here. But, they have 2 more days to get some points. And Hikaru also has 2 more days. He also didn't start so well, I guess, in the St. Louis Rapid, right? But he had a better second day, I think, right?
Yeah, I think in the second day, I believe in the Rapid portion, he scored -1 on the first day, then he scores 50% on the second day. And on the final day, he scored, I think, -1 again. So he finished the tournament on -2, which, I mean, he made a comeback in the Blitz, but he was just too far behind. And his winning recipe in the Blitz was putting on that pineapple shirt, but it seems that he doesn't have it with him. So hopefully he can still mount a comeback.
Yeah, I just feel like that shirt, like when you put it on, it must give you a lot of confidence. Like, because if you got the confidence to play in a pineapple shirt, there's no impediment to just winning all your games.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's hope he will still find the energy to make a comeback. But yeah, still 2 more days of fun chess 960 chess ahead. So hopefully he can make a comeback there. And to be fair, he played Nepo already, which is one of the toughest opponents. So it shouldn't get any. It should be easier from now on.
Yeah, I do feel like tomorrow against Dominguez, Svidler, and Aronian, those are definitely players that he can beat if he's in good shape. So yeah, we got to just tune in tomorrow and watch Hikaru make his comeback in this tournament.
Yeah, indeed. But for now, you guys, we are going to be calling it a day. But again, guys, make sure to tune in tomorrow, same time, same place, and we'll see you guys.